13.
O'clock.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's Wednesday. Time once again for one of our fun-ass shows. Yeah. Although this one, well, I don't want to say it's not going to be fun, but because it's kind of like a grim topic. But I agree with Zen Maverick, what you just said there. I'm so glad they caught this cocksucker. So ready for this episode. I was actually shocked when I first heard about it, but then, I don't know, these murders aren't that old. I think I would be more surprised if they, figured out who the Zodiac was, you know what I mean? Because that was like so much longer ago. I mean, these crimes, they found most of the bodies in 2010, so they did have access to like modern day technology and stuff like that, which is a lot of the ways of how they caught him. It did take probably longer than it should have, because I will note that one detail that actually kind of honed in on him, because prior to last year, this dude was not on the radar. Like, he wasn't listed in the suspects or anything like that. And the thing about it is that how he came on the radar was a piece of evidence that evidently had been gathered back then, but I guess it got lost in the shuffle, or somebody didn't investigate it, or something like that. So, we'll get into that a little bit too. Now, I feel like we already did a show about the Long Island serial killer case back in 2018. So I might give kind of like a summary kind of thing and all that kind of stuff, but I don't necessarily want to go too far into all that kind of stuff, like all the other suspects and everything like that, because we already did a show about that. But we will kind of go back to it and at crucial points and things like that, because I mostly just wanted to talk about this motherfucker and all the stuff that's coming out, and I'm sure more stuff will come out about him in the future, because they just arrested this guy Friday, so not even a week ago. So I've been reading everything I can read about this guy, because as soon as everybody found out who he was, everybody comes crawling out of the woodwork and they find out all this stuff about him. And I have to say too that just as in the case with BTK, I feel really fucking bad for this dude's family. What the hell are they gonna do now? Apparently they didn't know. And, and I believe that. So, I can't imagine what it would feel like to find out. Because his wife had been married to, they'd been married for 25 years, something like that. Like I said, very similar to BTK. And, she apparently didn't know.
He's kind of the same kind of guy. Look, when you look at him, he doesn't look as mean as BTK. He just looks like he could be like a big, gumpy-looking church pastor, for all you know. What he looks like your boss and somebody running a church. So he looks like.
Although I will say that the mugshot of him, he actually looks pretty creepy, pretty scary.
Okay.
And the thing about him too, and a lot of people mentioned this, when they met him and things. And if you see the video of him being taken into custody by the cops, he's a big dude.
He looks big burly, yeah.
He's 6'4", 6'5", something like that. So it's he was a head taller than all of the cops that were taking him to custody, and just real big. And I was and I saw the part of this interview with this one guy who, because the dude was an architect, and he was interviewing him about his architectural firm, on YouTube last year or something like that. And the guy said, I remembered meeting him and shaking his hand, and his hand was shaking marble. It was just he's just this big, strong dude. And it's interesting because all of the victims, at least the ones that they are at this time attributing to him, the Long Island serial killer victims, were all very, very petite young women. They were all in their mid-20s. All were 5 feet and under, 100 pounds and under. So the fact that he seemed I don't know, that fact would almost kind of make me think oh, he wasn't that big a dude, so he chose smaller women so he could, so he could intimidate them more. But no, he was easily twice their size.
Yeah.
Which is even more fucking scary.
Well, it makes it a lot easier for him.
Yeah.
If he has to carry the bodies, that's a lot easier. I look at him. He doesn't look like he works out. All right. But dudes, like I've said before on the show, some of these guys that are over 6 feet are just genetically very strong. They can sit down at a bench and easily press 300 pounds and they've never lifted before.
Yeah.
Which your average guy, no, it's going to take a couple of years of lifting to get up into the 300s, to put on some muscle mass. But some dudes are just big baby Huey type, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he kind of looked like.
Yeah, that's kind of what he looked like. And at 6'5", at his build, I wouldn't willingly want to fuck with him unless I had to. Now, if I was on trend and he grabbed Jed's ass, I'd be all over him. Look like that damn fucking Conan poster, fucking Conan coming down on a damn giant.
Too bad somebody didn't do that to him when he was like a teenager or something.
Yeah, I'll work a bitch over.
Solved a lot of people.
Jenny's seen me do it. But, it's always a risk when you deal with a guy who's just genetically strong. Or if he's a trained fighter, he's jacked, he's on PEDs and stuff, and he's trained. Anybody in MMA, it's going to be a problem. Your average dude, nah. But here's the spooky thing. The average guy who's not very physically fit can easily overpower the average woman. So imagine how outgunned these women were, these little 5-foot women.
Yeah, they
to
were
this 6
small.
foot. There's no chance. No chance. He could kill those women with his bare hands, and he probably did.
Well, he could just pick them up. I mean...
Pick them up and run with them.
Right.
Bash them into stuff. A blow would be a life-threatening blow to the face. You can punch somebody so hard if you're that size. A little 5-foot woman, single blow to the jaw, right in a sweet spot. It'd fuck her up, knocking teeth out and stuff. But chances are he probably roughed him up to keep him subdued. If this is how it went, I don't know. And then just strangled him. Usually that's how they do it.
I think that the main, the Gilgo Four, at this moment, he's only being charged with 3 murders, and that's because one of the Gilgo Four, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, they don't have enough of her, cell phone evidence and stuff like that, because we'll get into how they triangulated who's, and this dude is still alleged, but I don't know. I read through, or actually I didn't read, I had someone read it to me, over YouTube. Somebody read the, all of the evidence. It was 32 pages, and so I listened to it on my way to work this morning, and all of the stuff they had, all the cell phone evidence and there's DNA and shit like that too. I would be shocked if it wasn't him. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, innocent until proven guilty and everything like that. But
they got enough evidence.
They're a lot. Yeah. So, and they must. And the thing about it is that I was watching the dudes from the task force and everything like that came out and said, and like I said, he hasn't been trial. He's only been indicted and arrested and charged and stuff. But it's the dudes from the task force had absolutely no compunctions at all about coming out. One of them straight up called him a demon walking among us. Okay. And so the fact that he is confident enough to come out and say that, and he said it on the news, he said it everywhere. So I was just kind of well, they must be pretty confident that they've got their man, even though evidently, according to him, he's pleading not guilty. By the way.
Well, you have to.
Well,
basically.
And his defense attorney said that he cried and was oh, I didn't do this and blah blah blah, and I'm just yeah, boo fucking who.
Nah.
Boo fucking who.
You got to see, but from the evidence that you told me that they had on him, that's going to be a slam dunk case, unless the evidence is bad or faked. But they have to prove that.
I mean, there's just no way. There's just too much stuff.
Too much shit.
There's just too much of a conflation.
Yeah, too much stuff around
of shit going on. And like I said, I think that's the reason.
Dudes have been convicted on much less.
Yeah, big time. Less. So the thing about it, so at the moment he's being charged it's 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of second-degree murder, with 3 of the 4, the Gilgo Four, which were the 4 women that were found around the same time, in the same area on Gilgo Beach. And like I said, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, he hasn't been charged with her murder yet, although he is the prime suspect in that. So at the moment, I'm pretty sure. Last I heard, because I've been trying to keep up with it, I got little pings on and everything, so every few hours they'll come out with something, and sometimes it's not anything new. As far as I know, they're still going through his house and taking shit out. He also has 2 storage units, so they're going through those.
There's gonna be shit in there.
He also has some property in South Carolina that he co-owns with his brother. His name is Craig. And that's, I guess, where he was planning to retire to. Not anymore, bud. But so they're going to search that. And last I heard, this is the most recent thing, and I think this only just came out a couple hours ago, was that he also allegedly, supposedly owned property in Las Vegas, and he went out to Vegas sometimes like on business or whatever. So they're also investigating that. So they're going out there, because here's the thing.
There's also a lot of missing escorts in the Vegas area.
Well, yeah, so that's what they're looking into, because they're like, you know, it's possible, probable even, that this dude has killed people in more than one location. And, you know, they don't know for sure if all of the bodies found, you know, in Gilgo Beach, which is what, like 11 bodies, right? They don't know if all of those are his, although most of them are similar enough that probably it is. But the thing about it is that I find it hard to believe that he stopped killing people in 2010. I think he just found a new dumping ground, is what I believe happened. So I think that when they start looking more into it, as they're doing now, I think that they are sadly going to find more victims.
Well, this was off Craigslist. He was finding these girls, right?
Yes.
Well, I think the Craigslist thing shut down in about, what, 2000?
Well, now, because here's the thing. When he got arrested on Friday, they arrested him outside his office, actually. They said, we didn't want to arrest him outside his house because the dude had, as far as last I heard, they're pulling shit out of his house. They pulled 300 guns out of his house. Yeah. He had 92 permits for various things. But as far as I know, that was the last count. It was 300-something guns. And they were like, we didn't want it to be like a siege situation or,
so he was a collector,
or hostage or something like that. So so they're like, we wanted to approach him when he wasn't expecting it. Because they'd had him under surveillance for a long time. And I don't know if they were planning on doing it later. But when they found out that this motherfucker, like I said, the bodies were found in 2010, and they thought that that was the last of the Long Island serial killer murders that we know of. You know what I mean? I kind of suspect that there were probably more. But when they picked him up, in his fucking pocket was one of his burner phones. We'll get into that in a little while too. Which was one of the same burner phones that he used to use to contact sex workers, like but he doesn't use, I don't think he uses Craigslist anymore because they don't do that, but he still uses like Tinder and all that other kind of stuff. And he has like all these different names, like fake names, burner email accounts that he uses just for that, or just to do like fucked up web searches, of which, that was another thing that was super special. Like I said, I listened to this, I can't remember what it was. It's 32 pages, and they're basically laying out like all the evidence that they have. You know, it's like some kind of legal document. So I listened to somebody reading all of it, like through it. And they had in there a list of all of the Google searches that this dude had done. And it's horrifying. Okay, the shit that he would fucking search for. I mean, well, one of the big things, so I'm trying to think of like the exact wording. Well, he searched for a lot of kitty prawn. Okay. There was that too. And specifically 10-year-old blonde girls. Okay. Really into that. Really into girls getting raped. He wanted to see porn of that. He wanted to see girls with beaten up faces, like bruised faces, shit like that. And then he was like, what was that other thing that was like fucking one? There was one with like, he wanted to see a girl with her lips cut off. It was just, I don't know. It was all fucked up. But he just like, he was really into like torture and rape porn. You're right. And there was like a bunch of fucking girl crying with cock in her mouth, or it was just like all shit like that. So yeah, special. And also
sadism.
Yeah, also using one of his burner accounts, he also did over 200 Google searches for various things having to do with the Long Island serial killer. So he was
searching himself.
He was searching himself and like seeing what the state of the investigation was. As recently as I think January or February of 2023, he was searching why haven't they caught, like something like that. Why haven't they caught the Long Island serial killer, or 15 creepiest serial killers you don't know about. Like he was searching that kind of shit.
How old is he?
He's 59 at this time. Right. Yeah. Gotta say, they did, I don't remember who did it. I don't know if it was like an official like FBI police profile of this dude, like criminal profile. But it came out in, I want to say 2012. I thought they did it for the New York Times, so they might have just like hired somebody to do it, like a profile. But I was reading through it today, and I'm like, man, they got it bang on. Like that profiling. See, that's not bullshit. They basically said the same thing. They said, this is going to be a guy that is very familiar with the Long Island area, which he is. He was born there. And he lived there all his life. There's like, this is going to be a dude that's married, and is a professional, has a job, has an expensive car or truck, and just like all this other kind of stuff that was just like completely spot on. So they really did nail it, gonna say. I think the only thing that they put in the profile that didn't end up being true, well, I don't know if it's going to end up being true or not, but he's like, has some kind of job having to do where he has access to a lot of burlap bags, because that's how he disposed of a lot of the bodies.
Did he kill them on site, or did he kill them somewhere else and then dump them?
He killed them somewhere else and dumped them.
So they don't know really where the killing zones were. Hotels?
As far as I know, I'm not sure, because it seemed like what he would do, allegedly, was he would go and buy a burner phone. And like I said, he had several burner emails with different identities that he would use to contact sex workers. Used to be on Craigslist, like I said, back in the old days. But nowadays he was using Tinder. So that's why they swooped in and got him, because they're like, look, he might still be doing this shit. So, because he's still contacting sex workers, like recently, like just the other day, you know what I mean? And he's still got the phones. So they're like, we need to fucking move on this right now before somebody else gets killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they did that. But yeah, so he would contact them, and he would always, because the thing about it is that I believe on 3 of the bodies, they found women's hair. And because I think 3 of the bodies were, bound with like white duct tape. And then the other one was bound with like a belt, which was kind of like another big thing. But stuck in the duct tape and stuck like around the belt was women's hair. And they actually found out that hair belonged to Rex Heuermann's wife. Now, so everybody immediately, well, not everybody, they didn't like jump to the, oh my God, like she's in on it. But it was in his vehicle or on his clothes or something like that, because they found out by tracking her cell phone use and hotel records and stuff like that.
That was the break? They did a DNA test on the hair?
No, that wasn't wasn't the break. I'll tell you what the break was. Right. Well, I mean, kind of. That was one of the things. But I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Shit. I totally just lost what I was thinking of. Oh well.
No, you were talking about how that he was using tape and it got her hair on it.
Right.
And
what I was gonna say was that they tracked his wife, whose name is Asa. They tracked her cell phone and everything like that, and she was out of New York State every single time that at least the Gilgo Four murders that he's accused of at the moment. When those were perpetrated, like when the girls went missing and when they were likely murdered. So when she went out of town, like one time she went to Iceland, because she's originally from Iceland. I think she emigrated here when she was a kid. And one time she was in New Jersey, and then like one time I think she was in Maryland or something like that. So it seemed like every time his wife went out of town, he would start contacting sex workers, and then he didn't kill all of them, because there have been, I mean, allegedly, some escorts came out later and said that they had, had dates with him and were talking about, like, how creepy and weird he was. Yeah. And here, the weird thing, too, is that, and this wasn't just other escorts that said this, but it was also, like, clients and, like, co-workers and stuff. They said that dude would not fucking shut up about the Gilgo Beach killer, about Long Island serial killer. It's like I heard this one.
He's obsessed with himself,
right? Like I heard this one, and she wasn't an escort or nothing like that. She was like a client. Like he had done some architectural work for her firm or whatever, and he was at the site, like doing something like job related, and she gave him a ride home, and she said that he was like, oh, have you ever heard of the Long Island serial killer? Like, he just started talking about it, like, out of the blue. So, apparently, like, he would not fucking shut up about it. And, like, one of the other escorts said that, too, that it's like he just randomly out of the blue started talking about, hey, what do you think about that? You know what I mean? So, and I'm not sure how long ago that was, but So this seems like the kind of dude, like I said, kind of like BTK, where he seems like he kind of wants to get famous. Although he has pleaded not guilty and says he didn't do it, where it does seem like sometimes when you get like those narcissistic serial killers, they're just like, yeah, that was me. And here's more.
Could have been some kind of compulsion that he had a hard time controlling. So it played on his mind a lot. He thought about it and worried about getting caught. That's why he kept Googling his names and trying to see how far along they were in the investigation. Could have been, might have been casting a shadow over him. That's another interpretation.
But it is weird that, well, I mean, that's not weird. What's weird is that he just would like bring it up to random people.
Well, a lot of times when it's on their mind, you know what I mean, they'll talk about it to other people, like trying to vent.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's the thing.
Can't stop talking about it because they keep fucking worrying about it.
Yeah.
Trying to check with other people. You think they'll catch him? That kind of shit, you know. What do you think of that? You know? Yeah. I can see that. It's weird that he didn't kill, that he wasn't killing them all.
I guess not.
And
but
he went on multiple dates with some of them?
I guess. I mean, that was the impression that I got.
He only killed certain ones.
The impression that I got was that he was a pretty regular user of sex workers.
Yeah. He was a
but,
regular customer.
Right. I don't know how regular. I'm just saying that's the implication that I got, like, from everything that
Sounds
I
like
read.
something happened to him in his childhood where he's looking up kitty prawn, and then he's into all this. He's a big guy, but he wasn't always big. Something happened to him in childhood. Fixated. This is some kind of punishment he's doing. He's punishing him. I'd have to know more about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen much about. Now, there have been some people that came forward. DJ Maniac just mentioned that this dude got arrested like only a couple blocks from his house, or not that far from his house. But yeah, so the weird thing about it too is that he lived in Massapequa Park, and the neighborhood he lived in, the neighbors are freaking out, man. It's just like they just can't believe it. But this is really weird. This seems like contradictory to me because some of the people in the neighborhood, most of the people in the neighborhood, like nobody said, "Oh my God," he was like, so, like that doesn't shock me at all. But mostly what they said was that him and his family were real reclusive. Like you almost never saw them. Like not him or his wife either. And they had a couple kids. They're adults. But he has a daughter who I think is 26. And she also works in his architectural firm. So, and he also has what?
She's going to be out of a job.
Well, yeah.
That architectural
Well, they've
firm.
already. I heard that the website of the architectural firm, they've already scrubbed the our Meet Our Team page,
Yeah.
so no one could find her.
You're right.
But because I'm sure she probably got the fuck out of there, and I think that they also had a son. Although they keep saying stepson, so that's what the defense attorney said. So I'm assuming that was Asa's son, and
right.
They said that he had special needs, but I don't know what that entails, and I don't know. I'm assuming the son is older, but I don't know how old he is. Like the daughter is 26. So the house that they lived in was Rex's mom's house, or his parents' house. He actually grew up in that house, and then he bought it off his mom in, I think, 1994. And he's lived there ever since then. I don't know what happened to his mom now. Like, I don't know if she's still alive, or if she's in a home, or if she lives in the house too, or I don't really know. But yeah, so they live there. And what everybody in the neighborhood said was that, not only are they super reclusive, but also the house, like it's not like a fancy neighborhood, but it's kind of a nicer neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like kind of a nice suburban bedroom community, like they would call it. And they said his house was kind of junky. Like compared to the other ones. And some people that had actually been in there, like there was one woman that lived in the neighborhood or whatever, and she'd been around there like doing census stuff, and she said that she actually did get to go in there for a second, and she said that it was like almost like a hoarder situation, like it's super cluttered in there. So I guess that's why it's taking such a long time for them to get everything out of the house that they're taking out of the house. One of the things that they said they were looking for, obviously, is they're looking for trophies. Because the Gilgo Four specifically, as far as I remember, were found nude. And so, like, a lot of their clothing and jewelry and stuff like that is missing. So it would stand to reason that he probably kept that shit and has it somewhere. That's what they're looking for.
They were just skeletons when they were found?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't really know how they were killed.
Like I said, what I heard was suffocation or like smothering.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's the case or not because, like I said, I'm pretty sure they were fairly decayed. And one of the things that I heard this other podcast saying was that it could be that the reason that he put the bodies in burlap was because it would make the bodies decay faster. Like, because he just dumped them. He didn't bury them or anything, really. He just kind of put them out. Because if you see, like, because there was a documentary in 2020, which we watched, called Lost Girls. And that was mostly, that kind of started, that was mostly about Shannan Gilbert, because that was the escort that disappeared. And they didn't find her at first, but that was what facilitated them finding the other bodies. They were looking for her, and they're like, well, that's not her, but it's like, holy shit, who is this now? And then they found 4 more, and then they found 6 more bodies, and then they didn't actually even find Shannan Gilbert until like more than a year later, I think it was. And now they're still not even sure if Shannan Gilbert was murdered or not, or if she just died accidentally. Now, I think officially they're still saying that Shannan Gilbert died accidentally, because, you know, if you know that story, and that happened in 2010, where she went out to see a client, you know, on Long Island, and like near Gilgo Beach. I think it was Oak Beach was, I think, the name of the neighborhood. And then there was like a 23-minute 911 call. Like, she called the cops, and she was like freaking out, and she said, like, please help me, they're trying to kill me, or something like that. Like, she like ran from the house. And then she was like going around. It was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And she's like going all around the neighborhood, like trying to get help from like other people in the house. And then she disappeared, and then they couldn't find her for like a really, really long time. So it was while they were out looking for her, like there was a guy, like a cop and his, you know, cadaver sniffing dog. You know, they kept looking and looking and looking, and they couldn't find her. But then in the course of like looking for her, that's when they found the other bodies. Like the Gilgo Four, like I said, they call them that because those were the first 4 that were found, and they were like really close together. I think they were only like 500 yards away from each other. It was like, or like less than a quarter mile anyway. So those were the 4, and they were all in burlap. They were all bound in a similar way. You know what I mean? So they know that those 4 are connected. When they started looking more, they found, like I said, 6 more sets of remains, some of which have not been identified, and not all of them were women. One of them was an Asian man who was wearing women's clothing. Now, I thought that was really interesting because one of the Google searches that this motherfucker did was something Asian twink something. And that kind of like pinged my radar, because I was like, so I was like, oh shit, maybe he did kill that guy. Yeah. Maybe he did kill that guy.
That was on his menu.
So there was also, I mean, they found, I mean, the bodies, go back to like the other ones that they found like along Ocean Beach, I think it was, like go back to 2003.
That's probably all him.
I kind of suspect it probably is.
All those bodies along the Green River, that was all Ridgeway. It was all him.
And this was, and you have to think too, this was over a long
he's just
period of time.
Yeah, he's dropping them off there over a long period of time. They're not being found, so that reinforces his behavior. Well, they're not really finding them. If they do find them, they don't know who they are.
Yeah,
they don't know it's me. So you know, he just keeps putting them out there because it's convenient.
Yeah, and one of the victims too was a baby.
A baby. In burlap, or just a baby out there?
It was just a baby. I don't think that was it was wrapped in a blanket. But the baby, I don't remember if they found the baby first or if they found. They had
a mama too, I'm sure, out there.
The mom is out there. They found her, but she's not identified though. They just call her Peaches.
Yeah. Because
she had a tattoo of like a peach with a bite taken out of it, on her boob. So they found her, and then they did DNA analysis, and they figured out that the baby was hers.
She was working off Craigslist. She just had the baby with her.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So I suspect.
Wonder how he killed the baby. Smothered it, probably.
Probably, I would imagine. Yeah, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe he called her, and like she showed up, and she's like, "Hey, I couldn't find a sitter," or something like that. I don't know. And he's just like, "Oh well," and he just did that.
It wouldn't surprise me if the Craigslist girls work with babies. Just bring the baby with them. If it's a baby, baby can't witness anything.
That's true.
Dude might get a discount. Who knows? Got the baby with me. The dude's not gonna care. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
What'd Zach say?
Gave us a super chat.
Okay.
With stories like this, I always want to understand the why. In this case, what happened to this dude as a kid to make him do this stuff? Yeah, I'd be curious, too.
It sounds like something happened to him when he was a kid. You see, usually if it's very rare that a guy that size becomes a serial killer. Now, there has been some.
What about Kemper?
That's what I'm saying, Kemper. Kemper was pretty fucking big.
But
his shit went back to him as a kid and what his mom did to him as a kid. It wasn't something that happened to him as an adult or as a teenager. It was kid stuff. Something happened to him as a kid. Maybe having related to his mom or something. I don't know.
All I've heard so far about Rex Heuermann is that, you know, some people said, oh, he was bullied as a kid.
Yeah, maybe.
But
a lot of people were bullied. That doesn't...
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily...
This is something sexual.
Yeah, because obviously this is like... This is some fucked up shit. Like, some wires are crossed in there somewhere.
Yeah. It sounds like a punishment thing. Punishing these bad girls type of deal.
Yeah, because
just
even...
on his porn searches.
Yeah, even the porn that he looks at, he's really into women tied up, women getting raped, women getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
Women crying. Little girls crying.
Yeah.
Just he's real into that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So he seems to really enjoy watching women suffer.
Yeah, it's a revenge thing. A woman made him suffer, so he's doing it back. He's bigger now. Now he can do it. It's that.
That does kind of sound like
what it is.
Right. Now I'm kind of curious too, if his wife. I mean, I don't think his wife knew what was going on, probably, because, like I said, I can't remember what her job was. I saw somebody say something. She had some kind of, like, business, and she traveled a lot. She usually traveled over the summers. Like, she would go back and forth to Iceland because that's where her family was, and she would travel a lot for business, I'm presuming, because she was always traveling in the summertime, and that was usually when he would do his shit. So I don't know if he actually did the shit in the house, or, I mean, that would be a big risk. He did seem to be smart enough, and actually, like, I saw an interview with a guy who had gone to high school with him, and said that he did seem, in high school, he seemed very, very quiet, and he also said dark, so I'm guessing, okay, and also said he was really, really intelligent.
Well, Jen showed me the pictures of the 4 girls, Craigslist girls. They just look like white girls, girl next door types. You wouldn't think that they were hooking, but shit, the one we know you would never suspect.
Well, the thing about it is a lot of those girls too.
Yeah.
So I was watching another documentary about it earlier. I think 48 Hours did a show about it, but this was like before Rex got caught. Some of them were not. I'm not going to say they weren't doing it willingly. They were just doing it because they couldn't make a lot. Like one of the women. She worked in a call center also, but she just like wasn't making enough money.
Yeah, well that's usually how it is.
Right, and that's the same thing. Now one of them, Amber Costello, I think that she had a drug problem, and so she was like trying to make extra money like for the habit and stuff like that. But it's not always, I mean, sometimes these girls are just like, man, I just really need to pay my fucking electric bill or something like that, and I'm sure they're not super happy about it, but they, you know,
they're not taking precautions that they have to take. They're not getting references, and they're going with people that just don't have. Although
now some of them
would probably had references because he was.
That's what I'm thinking.
Have been why he wasn't killing them all, because he needed the references. Most girls would say, "Well, you got to give me a reference," and then he gives her the name and the number of another girl, and she calls him. He goes,
yeah, I think that's what was going on.
Access. He probably can't kill them all because he needs references.
Because anybody who's in that line of work, I mean, unless they have a death wish, usually have a few precautions that they take. You know what I mean? Especially if they know somebody else that does it. It's like they kind of have to look out for each other. Or they'll have, like, their boyfriend or someone like a bodyguard, like, drive them to places. Like, so if shit goes sideways, like, they have somebody to call upon.
Management and or bodyguard is usually the boyfriend.
Yeah. Shannan had that. Shannan Gilbert had that. But, I mean, it didn't help her in the end, sadly. But she did have somebody drive her out to... And I don't know if she was murdered or not. But, you know, like I said, her death is still, like, officially an accident. Though. I think that's what happened. He thought she was just, like, having a freak out or, like, a meltdown. and he was just, and then he couldn't find her, and then he was just like, well, fuck it, I can't like be out here all night. You know what I mean? And he thought she was just like took some drugs and was like losing her mind or some shit like that.
And here's the funny thing: me and Jen were just a couple days ago. We're talking about references. Fucking that one girl, Ayala, says that a lot of the times the references is the reference that she accepts is the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can have your wife talk to the hooker. Go, oh yeah, he's okay, baby. You know. That's
although
she says about 1/3 of them.
Although the thing about it was that in this situation that would not have worked because apparently the wife did not know that her husband was this fucking serial killer. Which, like I said, I believe it. Yeah. BTK's family didn't know either.
Yeah, and then getting the reference from another working girl wouldn't have mattered because I'm sure he had a whole bunch of references. He wasn't killing them all, so he would go, well, which is the one I had the best relationship with, and then give her that number.
Yeah. You know, because I think he was looking for a specific type. Because, like I said,
something set him off.
all the ones that he killed were a very specific type. They were all very petite, usually. You know, very very small.
Something about that.
And he was into that.
He's a big dude. He wants him to be as little as possible so he can magnify himself over him. Total power.
Yeah, big time.
And he wants to see him grovel and beg. Yeah.
Yeah, he really does seem like that kind of dude.
The thing is you have to take him somewhere to where that can happen. So where do you do this?
See, that's what I'm wondering, and that's one thing, and maybe somebody has addressed this. Like, I've tried, you know, obviously I couldn't read everything because there's fucking tons of shit coming out now. There's, like, millions of articles and millions of YouTube videos. And so I couldn't go through it all in, like, a couple of days. But I didn't really see anybody address that, where he's killing them. I'm assuming that they're, you know, checking his house and stuff like that. I don't think he was dumb enough to kill the women in the house that he shared with his family.
And you can't take him to a motel.
Right, because that would be like too many eyes on you, I feel like.
You'd have to do this in kind of a secluded area, a wooded area.
So now I'm kind of wondering.
So how did you get him out there?
They took his car into custody too, a Chevy Avalanche.
Oh, wait a minute.
What?
Usually the girl's going to want you to get a hotel room. He might have had a hotel room. They'll find out. And the hotel might have had convenient parking. He ties her up in the room. And because she's small, he can pick her up and put her in the trunk and then drives her out somewhere.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe that's why they had to be small. Make them more portable.
Yeah, so it wouldn't, like, be immediately.
You're right.
And I'm assuming that if he did take him to a hotel, it would have to be, like, some shitty place that didn't have, like, fucking security cameras.
Yeah, exactly. Like you know, little flat motels, like from the 60s, where the car, you can pull the car
just pull right up to the room.
Right up to the door, right up to the room, right. And what you do is you do something that's kind of late night. You arrange something that's kind of late night on a weekday where there isn't, maybe it's dead at the motel. You know what I mean? And, You mess around with her a little bit, and then as soon as she's comfortable with you, you just nab her, throw her in the trunk, and you just drive out, like, you know what I mean, and just check out the hotel. They're not gonna look.
And the fact that this dude, like I said, I don't think anybody suspected he was a serial killer, but I did hear a lot of people that had dealt with him, like, professionally, or that were his neighbors and shit like that, weren't big fans. Like I said, the neighbors all said he was real reclusive. You never saw him. He always seemed kind of angry. His wife, they said that she would do the grocery shopping like once or twice a week, and like she always looked super miserable. And they said that a lot of times she used food stamps, which seemed kind of weird because
they had money. Yeah.
It seemed like his business was fairly successful unless he was bullshitting. However, they did find out later on that he actually owed, what was it, $450,000 like in back taxes, like going back to 2005 or something like that. So it could be that he was telling his family, oh yeah, we got money and blah, 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 and then he was not paying taxes and maybe blowing money on Craigslist.
Maybe.
And shit like that, but not telling them where the money was going. But, I mean, obviously the wife had to know something was up with the finances because she was having to use food stamps, like, to buy food with, and didn't look super happy about it. According to people that worked at the grocery store that saw her all the time.
He must have been kind of a sex addict, too.
Yeah.
He probably was blowing a lot of money on hookers.
Well, I mean, one of the sex workers, I mean, before she disappeared, like before she got murdered, she like deposited $900 in her account. So it's like she was making maybe $900 a pop.
Yeah.
Which
that's about right for New York.
Right.
You just go on trist.link. You guys will see.
Tom knows all about it.
No, you can look up any area, any region, and find and see what prices are like.
Thank you, Jeffy Art. I always like his little.
Yeah. So
Ben says Icelandic people are always miserable.
He was probably pretty controlling.
That's what I suspect.
I don't think he was abusive, where he's like beating on her. He was probably just a real fucking drag. Micromanaged everything.
Everybody at work, everybody that he worked with and like his clients and stuff, they didn't necessarily say he was a jerk or anything. Some of them did say he was arrogant, but most of them said that he was real meticulous. So he's like super detail oriented. So he like kind of anal retentive is I guess what they were getting at, which I guess is a good thing to have if you're an architect and stuff. But I don't know if it's still up there, but for a while there was a YouTube video, because remember, like I said, there was this guy that he had like a like a real estate or an architecture like YouTube channel, and he interviewed this dude like a year ago before he was even on the radar, and it's just creepy like watching him because he's so normal, you know what I mean? Like he seems like a dick, like he seems kind of like a blowhard, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't want to hang out with him or nothing. But it's like, other than that, he just comes across as just like a regular schlubby business dude, which is crazy. And it's crazy to think that he was just had this complete double life that he was doing, like that even his fucking family didn't know about.
He was a demon walking amongst us.
Yeah, he straight up said that.
Yeah.
He said it on the fucking news, and he even said it on the what do you call it, the press conference.
Yeah.
Like, he basically said, he just came right out and said that, and I was like, shit. Yeah. I guess they must be real sure that they have all the evidence against this motherfucker. They wouldn't be, or they would say, the alleged suspect, blah, blah, blah.
He probably has known who he is for a long time. They just had to get all the evidence.
Well, like I said, what ended up happening was that, like I said, they found the bodies in 2010, right? That was when they were looking for Shannan Gilbert. Then they found those 4 bodies, and they found the other 6 bodies, and then eventually in 2011 they found Shannan Gilbert's body. Like I said, they don't know if Shannan Gilbert is one of the murder victims or if she died accidentally. I don't really know. I tend to think officially it's an accident. So she just was on drugs and she ran away and got lost and drowned in the marsh or whatever. But I was like, 2 things kind of make me question that. One, she was found face up. Which is not usually how you find a drowning victim. Not, it's possible, but not likely. And 2, the Gilbert family, they got an independent, what do you call it, mortician, whatever they call it, to do an autopsy. And he, in his opinion, he thought that she had been strangled because her hyoid bone was broken.
He definitely had the strength.
So, yeah. So I suspect that she might be one of the victims as well. But like I said, they're not they've given out a lot of information, I will say, but they're like, well, the investigation is still ongoing. We're sure that there will probably be more charges forthcoming. I think his first court date is like August 1st or something, but I don't know like what exactly they're going to do on that day. But yeah, so at the moment it's just 3 victims that they're focusing on because that's what they have the most evidence for. So I'm guessing as they find more evidence, because they're still searching all his properties and stuff, then it'll kind of come out and they'll do that later. Coroner, that was the word that I was looking for. Thank you. I'm getting to a point where it's just like, I was like, what's that thing in the deal? And it's like, I can't fucking think of words anymore. It's like, it's really sucky. But yeah, so what ended up happening? So yeah, so like all the bodies were found in 2010. And remember when we did the show in 2018, they had like a big long list of suspects. John Bitrolf, that weird doctor that supposedly gave Shannan Gilbert some drugs and said he ran a home for wayward girls or something like that. Peter Hackett, I think was that dude's name. And that was who Shannan Gilbert's mom, I think she sued him because she thought that he had done something to her or whatever, but I think that didn't go anywhere. And actually, Shannan's mom, this is fucked up. Shannan's mom, Mary, she got murdered by her other daughter. You know, like, what's her other daughter's name? Cherie? Something like that. And the creepy thing about it is that the 48 Hours show, which I don't remember when that came out, 2016, 2017, like before all that happened, they interviewed that girl, the sister, like Shannan's sister. And then later on, she ended up killing her mom, like stabbing her mom to death. And I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, it was fucking crazy. But yeah, so 2010, 2011, they find all the bodies. And then, you know, the case went nowhere. And it was just kind of like, it was just stalled. They had no idea who this motherfucker was. They had all these suspects, but really nothing, you know what I mean? And then, I guess in 2022, somebody lit a fire under their ass, and they decided, you know what, we're gonna figure this shit out. So they like put together a task force. They put people on it like full time. You know what I mean? Because you know, normally if you have like, you know, if you're a crime like murder investigator or whatever, you usually have like a bunch of cases going at once. And they had at least one person, maybe more than that, like working on this all full time. So they started doing that. A month or two after they formed the task force came up. They were going through all the old evidence again. And these were all people that hadn't worked on the original investigation because they said they specifically wanted fresh eyes, quote unquote. So they had all these people go in there. And somebody found this old piece of evidence from one of the Gilgo Four cases. And there was a thing in there that a witness had reported seeing one of the victims get into a first-generation Chevy Avalanche with a dude that was like real big with like dark hair. You know, they described him. Actually, a bunch of the witnesses described him looking like, quote unquote, an ogre. Which, yeah, I can see it. Well, like I said, he's a big hulking dude. He had kind of that messy hair. He has, you know, that he does kind of look like an ogre. Somebody like earlier said that he had like a big, huge head and like really small features, like a comic book villain or something. It looked like somebody from like Dick Tracy.
Yeah, I saw him only briefly. He looks just kind of Germanic. He looks, you know, I didn't remember him being blonde, not dark hair though.
No, he has dark hair.
Was it dark? Okay.
Yeah.
That's just my memory.
And it's just kind of,
I thought he was blonde.
No.
Okay.
But yeah. So.
What's his last name?
Heuermann.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a Germanic name.
It is I'm pretty sure that's a German last name. But yeah, so they remembered, they're like, oh, Chevy Avalanche, and they investigated that Chevy Avalanche.
Remember that, yeah.
And they
go ahead.
They found the name Rex Heuermann. Now, Rex Heuermann, it should be noted, had not been on anyone's radar. He wasn't any of the suspects. I don't think his name had come up prior to 2022.
Yeah.
Like, he was just operating completely under the radar. Nobody knew about this dude. But they brought his name up, and then they started issuing subpoenas for, like, all this information, like cell phone information, all that other kind of stuff. And then they went, like, through all the old, crime cases and everything. What they found out was that, as I mentioned earlier, Heuermann had burner phones. He would go into, like, a Verizon store or whatever, and he would buy, like, a prepaid phone if he was planning on doing some shit, like contacting some sex workers.
How long did he keep these phones for?
See, that's the thing. When they caught him... He
must have had a lot of them.
He did have a lot of them.
Okay.
He generally, I think the implication was that every time he was going to do, like, to use BTK's terminology, when he was working on a new quote-unquote project, he would go get a new one. But I think he used the same one for other things. But I think every time he was going to do a murder, he would get a new one. But he had, like, a bunch of burner email accounts too that had fake names. He was Thomas Hawk, I think, was one of his names. Andrew Roberts, I think. Like, so he had, like, all these pseudonyms, and he had all of these email, like, free email accounts that went along with it, so he could do shit without getting into trouble. So what they found out when they linked him to all these phones, because he had a personal phone too that was through his company, and they found out that not only was he in the same location as these burner phones, obviously because they're his, but they have to link all that information, but they found all the records of him contacting the cell phones of the victims, like, shortly before they disappeared.
Were the victims, were their cell phones burner phones or their regular cell phones?
No, they were just regular.
So they were giving out their regular numbers.
Well, I don't know if they were like all the time, but they did. Yeah. I mean, the way that they talked about it, they said, like, Amber Costello's cell phone or something like that. So I guess she was just using a regular ass cell phone rather than a burner phone.
Yeah, because I would think that they would, professional girls would use burner phones. So you wouldn't know what their real phone number was.
Right.
You only know what their business number is.
I mean, it could be, but it could be that...
Maybe they had them linked somehow.
Well, because here's the weird thing, is that, and this is fucked up too. Here's another thing that Heuermann, allegedly, got off on, and it particularly, I think this was in the case of, I think it was Melissa Barthélemy, who was one of the Gilgo Four. After he killed her, he took her cell phone and used it to call her family and taunt them about killing her.
Damn. What'd he say?
He called the sister. Now, at this point, like I said, the mom and the sister were freaking out because, she'd been missing for a long time and they didn't know where she was. So they hadn't found the body yet.
Okay.
So, so they get a phone call from her phone and they're all excited because they're like, "Oh my God, there she is, finally." Yeah. And they pick it up and it's this fucking dude. And he says to the sister, who's like I think she was like a little teenager or something like that. He says, "Are you a whore like your sister?" He said something like that to her. And then he was like, "Oh, she was in a whorehouse in Queens," or some shit like that. And then he told her in great detail, like, what he did to her.
What was it?
Well, he told her about, like, the rape, and he told her about how he killed her and all this other kind of shit.
How did he kill her?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have the...
Okay, they didn't give the details.
No. Okay. I'm just saying that's what... Yeah, so that's what the sister said. So the guy... And that was another thing that the guy did, was that he... that was some of the other Google searches that he did. He wasn't only searching for himself. He was searching for the victims' families, like pictures of their families, like how to get in contact with them. So that was another thing that he got off on, was like calling them with the victims' cell phones, like after they were dead.
Yeah, Albert Fish did
the
same thing.
Yeah, and taunting the families about, "Hey, yeah, I killed him," and blah blah blah. So he was doing that kind of shit too.
He was doing that from his burner phone.
No, he did that from the victims' phones.
From the victim's phone, that's right, yeah.
He did that from the victims' phones.
Yeah, and could they I guess they couldn't track down where that phone was at the time that he called, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, but the thing about it was that they didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know it was him until until later.
Yeah.
Now that they know who it is, they can go pull all the cell phone records and see what's going on.
It could have been a prank for all they know.
And that's what they did. Yeah. So, like, once they caught him, they pulled all his cell phone records. They found out all these burner phones that he had, like, that were all linked up. They knew that they were his, like I said, because, one, he was in the same location as them, like, all of the time that they were used. And two, I think he also used the burner phone at one point to, like, check his email or check his voicemail on his regular phone or something like that. Like, he did something that, like, linked him to it.
Right.
And there was also the victim's phones and his phone were, like, in the same location, like, a lot of times. Right. So they actually said, like, they listed all of these. Right. I mean, like I said, it was a 32-page thing.
Oh, he's gone, man.
So they listed all of these things where it's like, at this time, like, the victim's cell phone was here, and this motherfucker's regular cell phone was here, and the burner phone was here, like, with this phone number.
So when he was calling the families and taunting them on their phones, they know where he was when he made that call. Was he at home? Was he at home calling them?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes he was at his office or around his office, because his office is in Midtown Manhattan. It's actually on 5th Avenue and 36th Street. And that's actually where they caught him. So the thing about it was that they pulled all these cell phone records, and they're like, okay, well, it's very significant that every single time that, like, before these girls disappeared, their phone is, like, the same place as this dude, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they knew that he had contacted them because they pulled all the data from the burner phones. So they knew that he had talked to them, like, a day or two before they had disappeared. Right. And one of the victims, I think it was Amber Costello, he had seen her before. And he actually went to her house, I think. I'm pretty sure this was Amber Costello. And she tried to she successfully pulled a scam on him where he came to her house, like, they set up a date. He came to her house and she took the money And then she had a friend of hers pretend he was like the outraged boyfriend, and he comes in like, what the fuck is going on? And blah, blah, blah. So he had somebody do that and ran Rex Heuermann out.
Damn.
And then she kept the money. And then, so they have, they pulled the records, and a couple days after that, Rex called her again and set up another date. Oh, do I get credit for next time? He said.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to set it up. Oh, we'll keep your boyfriend away though next time, or something like that. So he was still like setting. And then I think that next time was like the time that he killed her.
He killed her, yeah.
But yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was because I knew one of the victims had done that. And I'm pretty sure.
So she was going to go through it the second time. Wonder why she didn't just go through with it the first time.
I don't know.
Maybe he's going to kill her the first time anyway.
That's what I mean.
But it's funny how she set him up the first time, but then the second time. She was gonna say, "Yeah, you got credit. Come on back."
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Maybe she just tried.
Yeah.
Tried to get out of it.
Maybe.
And she's like, "Oh well, he's gonna keep pestering me. Might as well just let him hit."
It's probably that was what it was.
Yeah.
Ben said, "Did they find any of these phones in his possession?" I don't think they found any of the girls' phones, but they found one of his burner phones. It was in his pocket when they arrested him. I think it was the one that he used the T-Hawk email for. I think that was the one that was in his pocket, if I remember correctly. And that was one that he had used, I believe, to contact some of the victims back then. So he did keep some of them for a while, I guess. But he would keep them and, like, do illegal activity on them. But they were able to link them all. So, like I said, there's a huge... It's 32 pages. And they have, like, this huge list of, like, all the times where the cell phones were and like the victim's cell phones, like, you know, before they disappeared. And then there's like activity on the victim's cell phones, like after they knew they were already dead, that kind of shit. And it was in the same places he was and everything. So once they got all that info, they, you know, they needed more. They went back through the DNA stuff. They're like, okay, well, now that we have a suspect, we can test all this DNA evidence. Like I said, it was mostly hairs. They found like female hairs, and they found, I believe, one male hair on one of the bodies. So what they did was they put the motherfucker under surveillance, and then they did pretty much like what they did with Golden State Killer. They waited until he threw something away, and then they swooped in there and got it. Now, what they did at first, because 3 of the bodies had female hairs on there, and so they went out when no one was home, and they took a bunch of bottles out of the trash, and they tested them, and it turned out that, like I said, the DNA belonged to Rex Heuermann's wife, Asa. And then one of the male hairs, or, you know, with 98.69% certainty, I think that's what it was. So they're like, well, you know, we can't say, oh, it's them, but it's like, you know, she's, you know, it's significant that she can't be ruled out, like, even though 99% of people on Earth can be ruled out. So they found that, and then when they tested the male hair, that I think was stuck in, like, some of the duct tape or something, they couldn't rule out Rex Heuermann. Again, I think it was 98.69%, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's like, so obviously their hairs are found on the body, so that's a little bit weird. Like I said, they don't think that the wife was involved. They don't think she knew anything about it. It was just transfer. It was either transfer from his clothing or his car or the house or whatever, you know, which happens, which I can't even imagine. That's got to be even fucking, you know, it's bad enough that this woman has been married to this fucker for 25 years, finds out not only has he been, like, fucking hitting sex workers while she's away, but he's also killing them, like, in a horrible way and looking at, like, all this horrible porn and shit like that. And, you know, and then it's bad enough. She's like, and then my hair was on the dead bodies. I can't imagine how I would feel about that. I just can't imagine. And I just feel really, really bad. But yeah, so just to be sure, another thing they did was they're like, okay, so we wanted to do, you know, we wanted to be even more sure with the DNA thing, even though we had one of his hairs, which we were pretty sure was his, and 3 hairs, which we're pretty sure were his wife's, that they got out of their home garbage. But what they did, they put him under surveillance. They're, like, watching him. And then they noticed he came out, and they have video of it because I saw it on YouTube. He came out his office in Manhattan, and he had ordered a pizza for lunch, and it looked like he ate most of the whole thing because, you know what I mean? He's a big boy. And and he threw the pizza box in a garbage can, like outside of his office on Fifth Avenue. And so the cops swooped in and got it, and they basically took DNA swab off the pizza crust that he had taken a bite out of, and then they matched it. And it's funny because DJ Maniac, he sent me, like, the other night, he sent me, I guess it was like a tweet or something like that, which is like, you know, the Long Island serial killer being caught by, like, a fucking piece of pizza is the most Long Island shit in the, like, history of Long Island. Which it really is. And, like, I mean, they didn't catch him because of that. They already probably knew it was him, but they were just, like, making sure. So they did, because they wanted to say, it's like, okay, that's his pizza. We just saw him put it in the fucking, they were filming him, like, put it in the...
They wanted to make sure they got him good.
Exactly.
So
and like
no way
I
to
said...
get out of that. They got too much evidence on him. There's no way to get out.
That's what I'm saying. It's always...
Got 5 times what they need.
Yeah. And, well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's why they spent so long, because they're like, look, we wanted to... you know, they've been working on this since, like, January, I think, or February of 2022. So they've been working on it for a year, more than a year. And they're like, we just wanted to make sure that we had everything, like, before we swooped in and got him. But, like I said, they wanted to swoop in and got him soon because they knew from his phone records and everything like that, because they had him under surveillance. I don't think he knew he was under surveillance. But they knew that he was still contacting sex workers, and they're like, well, this, it implies to us that he might be getting ready to kill again, so we really need to, like, get him off the fucking street before something bad happens.
Guarantee you go down to Vegas, in that house he's got in Vegas, there's more burner phones down there.
I'm kind of when I read that, Ben says, did they have a warrant to seize the pizza? You do not need a warrant to seize someone's garbage if it's in a public place. I'm pretty sure you don't even need a warrant if you, like, they can take your garbage if you put it out on the...
Yeah, it's on the street.
Because once you put the garbage out on the street, it's considered, like, public property.
Yeah, it's no longer yours.
And he threw the pizza box out, like, it was in a garbage can, like, on the street, like, in New York City. Yeah. So that's public property, so you can't do anything about that.
This isn't his only hunting ground.
It can't be.
It's wherever he goes and does time away from his wife that he's doing this.
And
Vegas is a perfect place.
That's what I was thinking. And there's a lot of unsolved murders out there.
Vegas is full of hookers. And they come in from out of state. They tour a lot. They tour in, and they'll run ads through, like, that website I was telling you about. And they'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be in this area. If you search that area, I'll be in this area between these dates. And the profile links back to them. Because they're like a rock band. They go on tour. And so that'd be a good place to hunt if you're a serial killer. And then you got all those deserts. Easy to get rid of bodies out in the desert.
Yeah,
you can find a place that's very secluded. And you said he had an avalanche?
A Chevy Avalanche.
Avalanche? That's what he had up in New York. He's probably got something like that. Something like a Bronco or a Jeep. It's probably what he's got down there in the Southwest. And he could ride that across the sand and bury him out there. Or just dump him.
That's what I mean.
He's not going to bury him. He's going to dump him.
Probably never find them.
No, he'll get to it. He'll get to it quick. And it'll just be a bag of bones in a burlap sack if it's in burlap in a few days. That's
what he did with those 4. Yeah. Those were, like, really similar. The ones from earlier that they found, like, a little farther away, some of those were buried. The Gilgo Four, they're pretty sure, like I said, that most of these were probably him. The Gilgo Four, they're just, like I said, they have those are the most similar to each other. They were found very close together, and there's the most evidence in those cases. Yeah. But he didn't even bury them. He put them in a bag. And like I said, I don't know if you've seen pictures of the place, like Gilgo Beach, like where these places, it's on Long Island, but it's really remote. There's just like a long road called Ocean Parkway, and then there's kind of houses, but then there's like all this like real thick marshland and like underbrush and stuff. So basically what he would do is he would just go a little way off the parkway and just dump the bag. Yeah. And nobody would see it. Yeah. So, and it would just lay out there. It's like, obviously it laid out there for like, well, some of the bodies, one of the girls disappeared in 2007 and they didn't find her until 2010. So it laid out there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Because people live out there, but it's pretty remote and it's just real thick. Like nobody walks through there.
What's funny, maybe I shouldn't say that.
What?
I don't want to give anybody fucking ideas.
I'm sure they probably already have ideas.
Yeah. You shouldn't have even put it in the bag. You know, you just throwing it out, taking the bag off of it. Once it was there, the animals would fucking get it and scatter it.
Maybe he thought that the bag would, like, camouflage it more. Yeah. Because, like I said, all the reeds and stuff out there are kind of the same color as burlap.
Yeah.
So he thought it was more likely
that would just keep everything together.
I feel like this is my suspicion. I think that the other bodies that they found on, like, out on Ocean Beach, like, a little farther away, like Peaches and Cherries and Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor and the baby doe, and the unnamed Asian man, they haven't identified him either, which is sad. Like, a lot of the victims aren't even identified. Valerie Mack got identified in 2018. Prior to that, she was also a Jane Doe. But I think that he started out dumping the bodies there because I think he totally did those 6 out there. I think that he started out there and he buried them. And then I think that after a little while went by, he was like, fuck it. Why do all that work? Like, why bury them? Because burying a body is work, you know what I mean? He's like, I could probably just put him in a bag and throw him in the weeds and no one would even see him, and he was right.
So that's why I'm thinking about Vegas. For you guys that may be new to the show, I conducted military operations out in desert environment, the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, or outside Egypt. We did desert patrols there through on a 4x4, a Jimmy 4x4. That was our patrol vehicle. Most of it was during the day, but we would also drive around at night to do other stuff, deliver supplies. Desert environment's fucking beautiful. It's easy to operate at night. You don't even need night vision goggles. You can drive a truck around with the headlights off and just totally blacked out. And if you pretty much know that area, okay, you know what the terrain features are like, you can hit 45 miles an hour and just drive it across the desert and not do anything like fall into a ravine. So he was probably driving around at night with the lights off and then just tossing them out, and then going back to the road that you know what I mean, going back to the main road. It'd be a good place with all those hookers. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch more victims down there.
As soon as I heard,
so you said Vegas?
I think I heard, like, I just heard it like 3 or 4 hours ago. Like I saw it on a news thing on YouTube or something, and as soon as they said, "Oh, you had property in Vegas," I was like, "Oh shit."
And I imagine over a period of maybe 30 or 40 years, there's probably thousands of missing girls that went missing out of Vegas.
I mean, I remember writing about a few cases, like unsolved murders in Vegas, because it's it's kind of like Florida in that way, where it's just like a lot of transient population. It's a high tourism area, it's a high crime area. A lot of people are in and out.
Known for prostitution.
Yeah, and it's also known for prostitution. Like, a lot of people go out there specifically for that.
Yeah, they go to the casinos. They work out of the casinos.
So I would be shocked if he hadn't committed some crimes out there. I would be shocked.
It's not possible. It's not possible that he didn't commit crimes out there.
Because I don't think there's any way. Because look, he's 59 years old. Yeah. Most serial killers, I'm not saying that it's like it has to be this, but most serial killers start fairly young, in their 20s or even like their late teens. So I kind of feel like it would be very unusual if he had started being a serial killer just in
his 50s,
in his 50s or in his 40s, because I guess like some of the victims, a couple of the victims they found on Long Island went back to 2003, and I think too that they're maybe trying to link him with one from like 1996. So
this shit started in his teens.
I suspect that. Yeah. So I suspect that there's a lot more.
You could probably go back to his late teens, and he's probably doing sexual assaults. There may be a murder back in his early teens, probably, and then might quit for a few years, and then in his 20s he starts ramping it back up. When he's under stress, he starts ramping it up, and then he's probably a sex addict too.
Yeah, I would. He sounds like that type.
Yeah, sounds like from everything you told me, he's probably a sex addict also. As a fucking real satyr, and he's real sadistic, and he's got to have this. He's got to lord over these women, and it's a certain kind of women he's looking for. I would really like to see photographs of the ones that he did business with and let live, and the ones that he killed. I bet you there's a visual difference between them. I bet you there's a certain look. There's a certain thing he's looking for.
I mean, he seems...
And by looking at the photographs of the ones that he killed, they all look like girl next door types.
Yeah, and like I said, they were all very small, too.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of one thing he was...
and
Because he was also into kids. He's
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of a PEDO.
That makes me think that something happened in his childhood, too. Part of him is kind of frozen in childhood. Something happened back there that's fucking him up. And that's also another thing. That's another kind of person that he could have total power over. A little kid.
Yeah.
So that's even to an extreme. But I bet the ones that he let live were rougher looking and looked more like a hooker. He probably would do business with him, but he just really wasn't turned on by him. He didn't feel like he had to punish him. There's something about punishment in this.
Yeah, he really seems to be that kind of motherfucker. Like
Yeah.
I said, considering all the Google searches he did, like I said, you can find it pretty easily. There's like a huge list of all the things that he Google searched.
Yeah, it's kind of, he's going to approach it from the attitude of like, well, you're a good girl and you've been bad, so I'm going to punish you. But then if he sees one that just looks like a slut, he's like, you're just being who you are. You're all right.
Maybe that's
gonna
what
be something
it
like
is.
that.
Well, I kind of feel like we've talked about this before, but I feel like a lot of serial killers of this ilk
It's the Madonna
have
horror
the Madonna horror complex.
Yeah.
And that's how they can compartmentalize. Mm-hmm. That's how, because it freaks me out too, like BTK or people like that. They have wives who apparently don't know what's going on, and they, 99% of the time would not even imagine doing anything to their wife.
Yeah.
Because they class them as a different
kind of person.
And
that's why he's calling the victims' families. Did you know that she was a hooker? Now he's punishing them. See, y'all should have known.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like he's extending the blame out. Like he's making them feel responsible for her life choices.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And he gets off on doing that too, which is fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, and she got what was coming to her. You know it was going to happen. That's his thinking. See, she just got what she deserved. She was bad.
The thing about these dudes too is that a lot of them they seem like they get off on. I mean, they get off on thinking about sex workers. They get off on that, but it's like then they're kind of like repelled and like ashamed. Too, in a little bit, which makes them like act out in like horribly violent ways. I think that's kind of
they see themselves as honest,
right?
And then they see these hookers as dishonest. They're doing something bad. They should be getting married. They shouldn't be taking money for sex. It's going to be just like that. And really, what it is kind of like jealousy. See, he's a satyr. He wishes he could go out and get people to pay him to have sex with them, but women don't pay for sex.
Especially not with that dude.
Not with a dude like that. So she has
not with anybody, but I'm just saying, especially not with that.
Yeah.
Dude.
So in his mind, she's breaking the rules. She's got an unfair advantage over him. You know what I mean? She can sell sex and I can't. I'm gonna punish that bitch. It's like that. So it's kind of like jealousy.
Yeah.
And she's exactly the opposite he is. He's big and kind of oafish and ugly, like an ogre, what they said. And they're little and cute.
Yeah. And he can't stand it.
Can't stand it. No. Hates him.
That's what. Yeah, I think you're probably onto something there.
Of course.
Yeah.
I understand the evil that lurks within the hearts of men. Well, what it is you just take normal, base animal emotions, right? And then you just kind of twist them and make them more extreme. That's what it is. It's just going to be that. You should probably
be a serial killer profiler. You'd probably be good at that.
Maybe. Yeah, I probably could. You have to have what's called strategic empathy. You have to be able to stand in the shoes of the enemy and find what they value most and what makes them tick and how they see the world. That's why people fail a lot when they're in conflicts with other people. They can't even describe the value systems of their enemies. All right? They just say, well, they're bad. Oh, they're bad? Yeah, what do they believe in? What are they looking for? Just bad stuff. They don't even know. because they can't put themselves in that person's. They don't have any empathy for evil or what they're considered to be.
Well,
evil.
that's why I always argue. It's like I know that there's a certain type of person that is always kind of like on people about, you know, why you like talking about serial killers and why you trying to humanize serial killers, like talking about their terrible childhoods and stuff like that. I said it's not so much that I'm trying to I mean, they are humans.
They're humans, yeah.
You're trying to like understand them. You're trying to understand where they're coming from. Where did it all go wrong? Why are they doing that? It's like, and I think that's we should be doing that.
Yeah, and they're not normal. They're not healthy.
Obviously.
They're not normal. This is not normal behavior.
But obviously we need to know why people are doing it.
A lot of their thought processes are within the normal realm, though. But they're kind of like normal for a child, like an angry child or an animal, you know. Which actually, no, animals are a little more pure. They're a little more honest. They don't deceive enough. Humans will deceive themselves and everyone else about what they're after. You know?
Yeah, because they always have a justification.
Yeah.
They always have a justification.
Animals don't bother. They're just, no, I want treats. No, I want treats. That's all.
And it's like sometimes they'll do bad stuff to get it.
Yeah.
Like knock shit over in the middle of the night and make a bunch of noise, or like jump on your face, or
hide
whatever.
something.
Or hide something.
I ate it. No, I ate that one.
Give me another.
I don't like leftovers.
Pookie doesn't like leftovers.
Yeah.
But like you said, they just do it. They're not malicious. They're not malicious. Mm-mm. They're just doing it because they want something. So
I think that's what it is. You know, he's punishing them out of jealousy.
Yeah, it might be that. I was watching good old Dr. Grande, who I really like him. He gets it. Man, he must never sleep, because the minute like some new news story comes out about some criminal or some shit like that, he's got a fucking video up about that shit.
Really?
Like the next fucking day, like analyzing the dude, like everything that he knows about him. But yeah, he's basically saying the same thing. He's saying, you know, obviously, very controlling, very, you know, anal retentive, aggressive. Several people did say he was aggressive, although some people said that he was real quiet, reclusive, very unfriendly. Oh, another thing I didn't mention was that he had no criminal record at all. No criminal record at all. The only thing that they brought up, they said that he, in the last few years, remember I said that he owed all this money in back taxes? Well, he had filed I believe it was 4 lawsuits in New York State, claiming that various people had hit him with their cars. I don't know if he means that they hit him while he was a pedestrian, or they hit him. I'm thinking probably that, because it would be harder to prove like a car on car accident, like if you didn't have the police involved and shit. But if somebody just hits you with their car, but he's trying to sue people because he said that they had hit him with their cars and, like, you know, caused all kinds of like injuries and stuff. And as far as I know, 3 of those cases were either dismissed or settled, but one of them is still ongoing. I suspect, like I was listening to another thing where it was talking about this, is what he was trying to do was he was going to try and make all this money, like, from these lawsuits, and then he was going to go to South Carolina and, like, retire out there. And I'm curious to see, like, when because as far as I know, they're searching that property in South Carolina too that he owns with his brother. I don't know I don't know if it's a cabin or if it's a house or if it's acres or anything like that. But
I don't think they're gonna find anything there.
They have to search though.
Yeah, I bet you they won't find anything there, because if he left anything there, I'd be afraid his brother would find it.
Unless his brother was in on it.
I doubt it.
But I doubt it. I mean, I did listen to one thing that kind of like brought up that possibility, and on that, I think it was the channel was Grizzly True Crime. She's like a grizzly bear. She's like a South African woman, and she has done like a fuck ton. I couldn't listen to them all because they were really long, but I listened to like a few hours that she did about it because she did a bunch of videos about it, and she said that she'd read somewhere that, I think this happened in South Carolina, that Rex and his brother, Craig, were there, and someone, like their neighbor or something like that, was mowing their lawn, I think was how it was going, and Craig came out and hit the guy in the back of the head, like with a metal pole, like saying, I didn't want you to mow the lawn today or something like that. Like it was some kind of situation like that. I don't know if that really happened, but I'm just saying that that was something else that I heard. So she was kind of saying that it's like, oh, you know, that's kind of weird. Like, so we don't know what their family dynamic was like. As far as I know, he only has the one brother. And I don't really know about his parents. I've heard it mentioned, but it's like, I don't, you know, I don't know if there's like much going on there. So I don't know if he was abused or anything like that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to have been abused because some serial killers weren't. I mean, obviously, some of them were really horribly, but a lot of them weren't too. A lot of them just had like regular childhoods and still were fucked up. That's why I kind of think that it always has to be a combination of factors. And some of those factors are genetic, I'm sure. Because some people can be born and endure all kinds of horrific abuse, like as children, and still turn out okay. Like not become serial killers.
I was just sitting there taking a leak, thinking, that bitch was crazy that she's letting those clients go to her house, doing in-calls at her house. I can't understand how those escorts do that.
I'd be scared too. Well,
I'd never let those dudes know where I lived.
I mean, I would never do that anyway because it's like, I mean, I understand why people do it because it's, you know, a lot of money and it's like something that you can do if you don't really have a lot of skills.
Else to do, yeah.
But, you know, so, and people get desperate. I get that. But
why do an in-call? Why let them come to your house? You don't want to go to their house.
That's what I mean. It's like, I always kind of feel like
you had to have
there's
neutral
really
ground.
Well, the thing about it though is that like there's no safe place.
Hotel.
I guess, but it's like, you know, they could still fucking murder you in there. Maybe she felt safer at her own house.
Maybe there was roommates there or something. The thing is then they know where you live.
Right. And then they could come
back.
They
could follow you while you leave or some shit like that.
Well, like I said, maybe she lived with other people and maybe she felt safe because there was people around all the time.
Maybe.
Like, so maybe she's like, well, I don't want to go to a hotel because it's like it would be a bunch of strangers and...
Well, no, I think what it is that the hotel is extra money for the client. So you lose a lot of your clients because they have to spend the extra $100 for the hotel room. So that cuts a lot of the business out, probably. So if you offer them an in-call option, whether you can come to them or you can come to her house, it saves the client money. You get more movement. More of them come. But still, the more of them that come, the more risk there is because, maybe only 1 out of 100 is a fucking nut. I think more than 1 out of 100 would be a nut.
Big time.
I would think probably about 25% of them would be some kind of nut. Maybe not necessarily dangerous, but just somebody that
you wouldn't really want to
associate
with otherwise.
You don't really want to hang out with.
It might be a higher percentage than that now that you bring it up.
Now Ayala, she's a famous hooker, she's all over YouTube. She says the best thing to do, girls should do is just raise their prices, which cuts out all the young guys and nothing but senior citizens, and that's what so she's $1,800 for the first hour.
I mean, you can't blame her.
Yeah,
that's gonna weed out a lot.
But she's famous now,
right?
You know what I mean? So she can ask. That's celebrity pricing. But you go on like that one app that I talked about, it's an app. You'll see, and it's a fascinating app. She recommended it. You can actually profile an entire area. You can say, everything 30 miles from this location. Like you put down the whatever location, it might be Eustis or whatever. And you can profile your whole area as to what the hell's going on there in terms of income. The lower those prices are and the more fucked up the girls look, the worse that area is. You can tell if it's a collapsing area or a growing area. Yeah. Just by
that's the thing. Working. Like I said, the girls that are working, it's like wherever they're stuck at, they're going to have to like adjust their prices to the clientele.
Right.
And if the clientele around there don't have any fucking money and you need to get their money, then you can't afford to charge $1,000 because no one's got it.
A nice suburban, urban areas, nicer cities, about 900. All right.
And that's about it seems like that's about what these escorts were making back in 2009, 2010 when they were working.
And if she's fine, like a model looking in that area, 13. And in that same area, if you see girls are like a 300, you don't want anything to do with that. nasty. You know? But in other areas, 300, 400 might be a lot better because in that area there's no income. The income is lower. So it's weird. You can kind of profile an area.
Well, yeah, it always has to do with like the economic.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting their profiles to read their and see what tactics they're using. You know, me and Jenny doing stream mate and shit. You want to know every angle. It's like a carnival. Like these are like carnies.
Yeah.
And it's a very organized subculture and how they do it, which is I think part of the reason why dudes like this target them, because they kind of fucking infuriated by the organization involved. It's a subculture.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's not normal. Well, shit, they're all fucking kind of in a community.
Hey, working's working.
So they all have to know each other in the area. Those girls all know each other in the area.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's a good thing because it's like they can watch each other's backs.
Yeah.
Because that's, like I said, that's a very dangerous line of work.
Yeah. And they're not street walking. I mean, there's in some places, but that's real low end shit. Out in LA,
I mean, that's like super desperate.
Yeah. Fucking, it's all online now. And Twitter had a lot of it. That's the main place to find them. And then they fucking, once you know what you're looking at, you understand the code words that they're talking about, it leads back to profiles that you can call them on. And you'd be surprised, man. Fucking, you don't know who those people actually are. For all you know, she's married, and the husband knows. There's a lot of that. Some of the girls are just like family type girls that nobody knows they're doing that.
Well, it does seem that like after these particular women were killed, I don't think most of their families knew what they were up to. I don't think they knew. Well, because I mean they were adults, so they weren't living at home anymore. Yeah.
But they don't have that sex worker vibe or look to a lot of them, which I think is part of their marketing appeal.
Well, like I said, some of them had like regular jobs too. They were just trying to make extra money.
Yeah, just side shit. And a lot of the ones that are expensive like that are very selective. They're just trying to weed out younger guys. They don't want them. They want guys that are 65 plus, married, with a lot of money, business owners.
Like
they
this
don't want
guy.
any trouble. Yeah.
But see, that just goes to show.
Yeah.
Even if you go with that angle, probably safer, but
he was one of those.
Never entirely safe. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of those.
That's what I mean. On paper, he would seem not necessarily a threat.
Right.
Because he was older, he owned a business.
Yeah.
You know, he had a family. Like, he seemed like a normal dude.
Right. Well, according to Ayala, the younger ones, she threw them out not because they were dangerous per se physically. It's just that they were too much of a hassle.
Yeah, I can see that.
That they didn't want to pay those prices, and that they didn't want to, like, they didn't think they got their money's worth, that type of thing.
Yeah, they're probably always pissing him over.
They're like, oh man, that was fucking bullshit. But the older guys are just happy to have company. Well, thank you. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you want somebody that's going to appreciate your shit.
Yeah. And these dudes are chumpy. Okay. I've seen the profiles of the dudes. They're mostly chumpy.
Which, like I said...
That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. But it's funny because this dude was like that type.
Yeah, but he was a killer.
But he was a serial killer.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you never know.
Never can't tell.
Yeah. You're probably safer...
Yeah.
Generally. With older dudes, statistically. Yeah. But you're never 100% safe.
Older married guys,
you never know.
You'd be statistically safer with, but...
You never know. Well, like I said, BTK was like that too.
It only takes one. Now, these guys are rare.
Right.
Very rare. Dangerous guys are probably more prevalent in the younger section.
Yeah, that is also statistically true.
Just wouldn't be a serial killer. It'd be just some dude beating you up and not paying you or taking your money and robbing you.
Yeah.
You know.
And those are generally, we've talked about that before. I'm not saying that it's better, but I'm just saying that it's kind of too, because somebody mentioned earlier that it's like how I said that a lot of serial killers that had wives and like the wives didn't know. And I kind of feel like a lot of the times the serial killer wouldn't kill their wife because they had compartmentalized, like, this isn't the same type, it's not acceptable, like, to kill her because she's a different type of person. But I kind of feel like, and then he said, well, when a wife gets killed, like 99% of the time it's the husband, which yes, it usually is. That's why they always investigate the husband or the boyfriend first, because statistically, that's who it's most likely to be.
Strangely, those serial killers aren't killing their wives.
But because I think that there are two different.
It's a different deal.
It's two different. It's still bad, obviously. Yeah. It's equally horrible, but it's two different mindsets. I kind of feel like serial killers tend to be a lot more. They plan things. They tend to go after strangers, things like that. Whereas, people that kill their spouses or their family, I mean, that's usually, sometimes that's planned too, but that's usually kind of like after like a long time. It's like, oh, I can't stand her anymore, or she did something to piss me off, or whatever, or that's an abuse situation. Yeah. So I kind of feel like it's that.
Ben's in there talking about that the law enforcement are usually bumbling and can't catch people. Actually, what's funny is that recently, if you kind of look, I don't think at least in the state of Florida, they'll go after massage parlors that are fucking undercover fucking rub and tugs. They'll go after them. But they don't seem to care about anything happening online. It seems to be that's too expensive and difficult to police. And they don't care as long as it's not in public. I really think they don't care now. As long as it's...
Probably not. Even though technically it's still illegal.
Yeah, they just don't want it to be out on public. They don't want streetwalkers. They don't want
it's
brothels.
Just so... It's so ubiquitous that I feel like even if you wanted to stop it, I don't think you could at this point.
Yeah. It's just like performance-enhancing drugs and steroids and shit. Technically, in a lot of states, that's illegal. But they'll never actually take action on them unless it's an underground lab. Why? Cops take them. A lot of cops take them. They don't care. The money's not there. There isn't a violent drug scene surrounding that. They have a problem with fentanyl. Okay, so they just don't have the money or the resources or the willpower to go after a lot of this stuff. Serial killers fucking will jump on it though. Jump on these girls hooking. Because you can get your hands on them.
Well, like I said, it's easy.
Yeah.
All you have to do is like call them up and set up a date, and they'll
you can do it, right.
And they'll come right to you.
Yeah, and if you're one of these Punisher types like this guy, then that you're looking for the girl that needs to be punished. The good girl that's doing wrong. She should have known better. That's the thinking, I think.
Yeah, that seems like that tracks.
If she looks like a total hoe, he's like, yeah, okay. He'll accept that. It's one that is deceptive, I think, in his mind. Oh, she shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to punish her.
Yeah, because
that's what he's doing.
Yeah, probably.
Because I looked at those girls and I was going like, they don't have that. They don't have the working girl look. Which a lot of those working girls you look like that. They look like that on purpose because they don't want to look like a professional. Because older guys will go for the ones that don't look like professionals. Younger guys will go for the ones that just look like a straight up hooker. They're like, oh yeah, that's hot. They'll go after that because it's the thrill of it. But I think the older guys are reminiscing or nostalgia for an earlier era in their life
where they could actually like get
laid
without having to pay.
Without paying, exactly. The young guy's fucking is jacked that he's paying for it. It's instant, on demand.
Just like ordering a pizza.
Mm-hmm. She better have some big ass daddies. that skirt better be short as fuck when you show up. It could be shit like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, dudes aren't really that hard to figure out, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just think of the dumbest shit you can think of, and that's probably it.
Well, I was pretty open about it on the show when I was in Korea. That's all we had access to was professional Korean chicks. They had a whole army of them in the nightclubs down there, and they were all legalized, and fucking U.S. Army fucking checked them all out. The medics checked them all out and everything. They all had cards and everything. They were just club call girls. And fucking we were in fucking hog heaven, man. Fucking we only got like 1 day off a month. You
had to do a lot of fucking on that one day.
Yeah, man. And they were cute, man. They were nice, and we were just and man, fucking, they looked like hookers. We loved it. Yeah, dressed up in fucking cowgirl outfits with fucking shorts on and fucking cap guns and fucking heavy metal girls and just anything to fucking
that would appeal to an American
guys. Yeah, that's what they were doing.
The cowboy.
They had some of them look like rappers and shit. You know. Just,
Please tell me they had one that dressed like the Statue of Liberty.
No.
Oh,
no.
damn. They're like, well, could you? That's kind of my fetish.
Yeah.
No, that would be like super funny though. They just had one in there with like the fucking torch. That would be fucking hysterical. Except like a sexy Statue of Liberty. Oh my god, that would be a good Halloween costume. I don't think I've seen anybody do a sexy Statue of Liberty.
Over there, it was a good scene. That was up on Hooker Hill in Itaewon.
Yeah.
They stopped all that now. They made it illegal. We evidently went underground, and it's just foreign girls doing it now, like girls from Eastern Europe and Philippines. Evidently, that's who took over. The Korean girls, they got banned from it, and they were mad. They were having whole I heard about all this shit later. They were doing slut walks and protests. The Korean girls, because they weren't being allowed back into society. See, this is the thing. That was all government backed. Korean government backed. The Korean government was basically recruiting and training girls and even teaching them to speak English to be prostitutes in these clubs in this one section. Their mission was to pick up any rumors that they heard. So it was intel.
Yeah.
Okay. And to get as much of the GI's fucking pay into the Korean economy.
Yeah.
So they're getting your paycheck out of the fucking American soldier and putting it in the Korean economy. They were helping rebuilding their economy.
Right.
And, you know, as successful as South Korea is right now, a lot of it was on the back of that. The interaction between...
And does anybody appreciate all those girls?
Right. Well, you see, the thing is when they recruited them, they were telling them this was like a patriotic duty. We had an army of American guys down there protecting them from the North Korea, and an army of fucking South Korean girls there to get all their money. That's what, and to entertain them.
Yeah.
To keep them from bothering the locals. Well, when all that shit shut down, they were out of work, and then none of the guys over there wanted to marry them anymore
because they're
all busted out.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you've been fucking them foreigners, and they didn't want them. So I don't know what happened to them, but there were big protests. I felt sorry for them, you know, because in a way that's like the soldiers. The oldest profession is hookers. The second oldest profession is soldiers. They're both selling their bodies to old men. That's what they're doing.
Essentially, yeah.
Just that one of them's for sex and the other one's to kill the old man's enemies. You know. That's what it is.
I really wish. I think it's a lot better now than it used to be, but I would really like to see in my lifetime the stigma surrounding sex work to disappear. It does seem like it's going in that direction, but I don't know.
The stigma will never disappear. They'll just be able to decriminalize it.
Yeah.
Which they should decriminalize it and make it a lot safer.
I think it would, honestly.
Right, but here's the thing: you don't want it to become so legal where corporations get involved.
No.
Then you'll have chains of brothels and then fucking huge advertising campaigns to get your fucking daughter to work in there and shit. It should be a last resort. Women shouldn't want to be hookers.
I mean, some people want to do it, and that's fine. But I do kind of feel... I mean, probably, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think most of the women that do it, they end up doing it.
Here, this is my
I don't think they chose it, necessarily.
No, this is my thinking on it. Any sex work in general kind of fucks up a younger woman's choices in the future if she's ever going to look for a family. Yeah, you can find a boyfriend and a husband, maybe. But even women that don't have that in their past have a problem. It's just one more thing kind of against you to eliminate certain guys. Now, there are some guys that are into that, but do you want to go out with that guy who's into that? Maybe that's a fetish? I don't know.
I mean, he might be all right. You don't know.
You
but
don't know.
He might be a weirdo.
You don't know.
You're not really sure.
And me and Jen are kind of, you know, we do Stream Mate. We make video product and shit like that, which is selling well. I know you guys are buying that shit up on Stream Mate. But anyway, I don't recommend it for young people. I'd recommend it more for a woman who's already had a family or a kid or whatever, you know, she's in her 30s or 40s. Maybe she's divorced. It's not going to be held against her too much.
Not as much as
not
it
as
would
much because she's not in her prime breeding, getting married age. She's now she's old enough, and people know she knows what she's doing. She's more what you would call seasoned and empowered. And here's the thing. Here's the weird thing. A lot of Jenny's fans are young. Young guys like older women that are sexy like that, and they make a much better porn star, if you ask me. Or if they were going to be an escort, yeah, you want them like 35 plus. You know, who's lived a normal life. She might already have a kid or so. You know what I mean? That'd be better. Because she, you know, if they get involved in that shit in their late teens or whatever, man, you're kind of denying them a normal life. A normal life as a young person.
Yeah. I mean, once you've already had kind of a normal life and we're like, fuck it, I'm just going to go, like,
yeah, you're strong enough to do it. Yeah.
Then, that's probably healthier.
A lot healthier. Because you know who you are. You have a stronger identity by that time.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, your skin's a lot thicker.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't recommend it for young people.
Yeah, it might come back and bite you in the ass later. Yeah. Like I said, the stigma isn't as bad as it used to be, but there still is a stigma.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you have that in your past, like, you know, when you're looking for jobs or something like that, like later on, if you decide to go straight or whatever you want to call it, you know, somebody might find that shit and be like, yeah, we're not hiring this person. You know what I mean? So. Yeah,
you're 27. Some chick, you look great and shit. You meet this fucking 35-year-old guy. He's fucking loaded. He fucking loves you to death and shit. And he finds out you're a hooker. No, you're gone. He's not gonna marry you. He's not gonna marry you.
Yeah. James Homie Holmes says, I swear this dude was not the only one doing this. I remember hearing about some law enforcement connections to some of the women that were murdered, so it could be multiple or he's a fall guy. I don't think he's necessarily a fall guy. However, there was, and I think we talked about this on our show that we did about this in 2018. There was a cop. What was his last name? He was a sergeant, wasn't he? Boyle, I want to say was his last name. I can't remember what his last name was. But he was actually, seemed like he was actively impeding the investigation into the Long Island serial killer. So for a time, he was considered a suspect or a person of interest. I think that they dismissed him eventually, but he did get in trouble for the, for the getting in the way of the investigation and stuff like that, like later on. And I think that was mostly to do with the Shannan Gilbert case, which, like I said, I'm not really sure if that's even, no one's really sure if that's really related to the other Long Island serial killers, because they still don't know if she died accidentally or if she was murdered. I tend to think she was murdered, but I'm not entirely sure. And because the thing about it was, I don't know, it just seems very weird to me that she would just like wander off. And it's not weird that she would drown in a marsh. I know that's like kind of like harsh territory out there, but the way she was found like makes me suspect that she was probably killed. Mr. 88 said, and I'm kind of behind on the comments, very, very few of the big serial killers had completely normal childhoods. BTK is the only one I can think of that didn't have a specific well-known childhood stressor.
It was there. He just didn't talk about it. It had
yeah. Well, and he said too, like, wait a minute. Yeah, James said BTK didn't even talk about his problems either. The era he was born into was so conservative it didn't allow for that kind of sex talk. Dude had the ability to be normal. And we brought that up in a lot of cases before, particularly in the case of like Jeffrey Dahmer, people like that. I think that had they been born in a different era, some of them might have turned out okay.
Yeah, Dahmer would probably have turned out all right if he was a teenager now.
Yeah, I don't think, if he was born now or he was a teenager now, I don't think he would be a serial killer. Mm-hmm. I don't know, obviously, and we can't run that experiment, but
Dahmer became a serial killer to hide the fact that he was gay.
Yeah, which was not as acceptable back then. It was still seen as...
Made a move on a guy that he invited over to the house when he was a teenager, and he killed him with a fucking barbell. Because he fucking made a move, and then the guy says, no, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna fuck with you, you faggot. And boom, boom, then he killed him.
Yeah.
And that was his first kill, and that sent him down the road. So he killed people to hide the fact that he was gay. Then he went on to kill gay people, knowing that he was gay, but it was just part of his sexual appetite by that time. He wanted total control over a person. He wanted a living sex doll.
He wanted them to never leave.
He wanted them to never leave. Didn't want anybody to leave him alone with his insanity.
Yeah, he had some like bad abandonment issues.
Yeah, so, and he didn't want him to be awake either, though. He wanted him to be like a living sex doll. So he's drilling holes in their heads, putting Drano in them and shit. He was bizarre, man.
What did you even think of that?
Fucking crazy.
Like I said, I write horror, and I never even thought of that.
Taking pictures of the fucking dissected bodies and shit. And he's doing all this in his fucking little apartment.
Yeah.
with a fat acid.
I mean, we've made the argument before that I think that the reason you don't see the same types of serial killers, at least to the same degree that you saw it, say, in the 70s or 80s, is probably because of the advent of the internet. It's just easier to access, you know, if it's some kind of weird sexual fetish or proclivity or something like that, it's pretty easy to find something that will satisfy your needs and other people that are into the same shit as you, so you're not sitting there all by yourself thinking I'm the only person in the world that's into this and I'm a fucking freak, and you can't find anybody else to satisfy those urges, you know what I mean? Whereas nowadays it's very, very easy. You just go on and be like, hey, is anybody into whatever? And it's like, hey, yeah, okay. And then you can just find somebody that's into the same shit as you. So I think that has alleviated a lot of the things that would have caused serial killers before. And I think, like you said, like BTK, like coming from an era where, particularly, I feel like, you know, during the 50s and stuff like that, where dudes were not really supposed to talk about how they felt, like they were just supposed to be real stoic and keep everything inside, and I really don't think that that's a very healthy way of going about things, because you just suppress a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And it comes out in horrible ways. No, I don't. No, I didn't say that. I just, you know, I think that was definitely a factor.
It was just one of the factors. You had guys that had serious problems, and fucking they couldn't talk about them. And also, you were in a society where you were really judged by what kind of things you were into in terms of sexually.
Yeah.
And there wasn't an internet back then to fucking let these dudes know that, hey, it's not just you. There's a lot of dudes that are into this shit. Hey, go talk to them. And see, it's not so weird. And then they actually work that kink out of them. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I think a lot of those dudes would have outgrown a lot of those weird kinks that they had if they had access to the internet, because they just gotten tired of it.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, it's very easy to
blow off some steam, and then they're like, oh, okay.
And then they're like, all right, okay.
And then they're on to something else.
Right.
But they were kind of cloistered and fucking shut in, and it got worse and worse and worse. It started growing them like a cancer. And then they start acting on it, and then once they act on it, man, they can't back off of it. It's now part of them.
Yeah, because then it just keeps escalating.
Yeah, they've killed somebody over this, so they can't back off of it now. It's now part of them.
That's why you see the escalation, because a serial killer, once they do one, and then it's like, well, you know, they'd probably been fantasizing about that for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then they finally did it, and they're like, now they did it, but now they have to keep, like, ramping it up, because it's not as good as the first time, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a serial killer, but
they got a whole online scene. This has been going on forever. In the 90s, I remember hearing about it. It gave me the shivers back then hearing about it. This is back, you know, in the late 90s. When they were doing those weird fucking fake cases. You knew what they were. They were kind of like, you thought they were telling you the truth, but turned out that the whole thing was fake. What did they call those things? It was like a puzzle, like a murder mystery, and you thought it was a murder that really happened, but it didn't happen. They made it all up. What was that called? You knew what they were. It was something that used to be on the internet back in the 90s. Kind of like a multimedia type thing. I don't know what it was called.
Like a ARG?
ARG. That's exactly what I'm talking about. ARG.
Alternate reality game.
Yeah, during those ARGs, it came to in that same era, it came to my attention. There was a group of people online called Vors that were fantasizing about eating people.
Yeah.
And they would write up all kinds of shit, and they would just fucking, man, it sounded like they were really doing it. And it was scaring the shit out of me. It turned out it was all fantasy. They were just fucking writing it. It was just there. Now here's the thing. I don't think most of those people didn't ever eat anybody.
No.
But talking about it, I think, prevented them from eating people. If fucking it wasn't there, those dudes probably would have ate somebody.
See, that's what I suspect. Because that's a pretty out there fetish, okay? I'm going to say that right now.
It's been around a long time.
It has been,
people have been cannibalizing each other. Remember Albert Fish?
Yeah.
He's back in the early 1900s or late 1800s eating people. And he was saying that, well, people eat people in China all the time. And I thought he was bullshitting. I went back and checked and said, no, they were eating people in China too. They were selling little children. They were selling meat off of children in the open in certain places in China at certain times because they were just in a huge famine. And, if somebody died, they didn't waste it. they'd sell the meat. That went on up until the 80s. During that Cultural Revolution, they were eating people that they suspected of being, well, they would just accuse people of being capitalists, and they'd eat them. It was called a flesh banquet. You guys can check that up. That happened. And the Communist Party went down there to investigate it and try to stop it. And they evidently did stop it, but they tried to hush it up, but it got out anyway. It was kind of like their Red Guard, which was kind of like just, nowadays it'd just be like protesters would just gang up and accuse people of being capitalists and then eat them. Sounds insane, but they were insane, I guess. But yeah, I thought that was fake, but it is true. It's called a fucking flesh banquet, Chinese flesh banquet. Crazy. So there has been cannibalism. There was a lot of cannibalism in World War II on the Eastern Front, especially in Stalingrad when it got fucking. There was cannibalism all in North Korea.
Well, the thing about it is there's a difference between cannibalism because you're starving and cannibalism because you get off on it.
Yeah, but I think they kind of go hand in hand after a while. I think some people start sexualizing it.
Well, yeah, of course, that's going to happen.
And I think there was people like that back in the 1800s. Cannibals. Yeah. And that probably was kind of a serial killer type thing. You know how there's people that were running inns and killing people and stealing their luggage and shit, and evidently probably eating people.
Like, hey, free meat.
Yeah. So who knows what goes through the minds of people in the Victorian era?
I'd be horrified to know, probably.
Right. So could be that things like the Vor seen online actually kind of prevented some cases of cannibalism. Probably not a lot, because there weren't a lot of people in that scene.
Right.
But those particular people that sought that scene out were probably going to be cannibals had they not talked about it. It's like almost like a talk therapy. I don't know. I'm envisioning it being like therapy.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that a lot of the, we've talked about this before, like I said, but I feel like a lot of the people that kind of became serial killers earlier, like in the 60s and 70s, I think that was just because they were brought up with these weird fetishes or sexual proclivities and they didn't have any outlet for it. So it's like where nowadays, like I said, you could talk to people about it, or you could make art of it and go on fucking websites and whatever, and there's like other people and you can talk about it. So it might, I don't think it's going to stop everybody from doing that, because some people are just going to do it regardless, but I do think that it helps though.
Like this dude, he was searching weird porn terms, kitty prawns, rape prawn. Chances are, he was already doing that, but chances are that was like a placebo.
Yeah.
Something to hold him over.
Until the next one that he could do,
Right. So there might be a lot of guys who want to go out and do that, but they never actually get the balls to do it. So they just look at images of fake rapes.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I kind of feel like a lot of the Google searches that this dude did, they're horrible, but they're probably not all that unusual. I think a lot of dudes that are not serial killers
probably doing that too.
Also want to see, prawn of women tied up and like women getting beat up, and
that'd be BDSM,
right?
Fetish,
so
still that too.
Right, so it's not that weird.
Yeah.
We've just seen just on a cursory glance through prawn sites, seeing like stuff where like people are crying like with dicks in their mouth and it looks like painful and stuff. So the fact that he was looking that up, it's only sinister in context because that he's probably a killer, that he's doing it for real. But I kind of feel like a lot of dudes look at that kind of porn and don't ever kill anybody.
There's also the tone of it. The girl that she was talking about, she was doing this to dildos and slapping herself and crying and fucking, but she had whole stories made up of what was happening, and it was actually fucking funny.
Yeah, you could tell that she's
just having fun with it. So the tone has a lot to do with it. It wasn't credible.
Yeah, I think he's more looking for stuff that's like realistic, like snuff type shit.
Yeah, fucking women that are bruised up and fucking fat lips and shit from being fucking punched and shit. You know?
Yeah, he specifically searched for a pretty girl with bruises on face.
Yeah, right. Now, there's shit like that out there, but it's fake. You
Yeah.
can just use makeup to get that effect.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I don't want any of the girls to go and it's like, hey, beat up my face.
But then there are some in the BDSM scene where they'll fucking paddle the ass black and blue, hit them with, they'll cane them, and hit them with switches and shit, and even draw blood. But she's
consenting.
She's consenting to that, yeah.
Right.
That's her thing.
Because she's into that.
Yeah.
Right. But see, I think that's why a lot of that kind of stuff is sort of like a slippery slope, because you're not entirely sure like whether that person was consented to that or not. You know what I mean? You can't.
Well, they sign the release forms, and then
that's what I'm saying.
Then they're starring in multiple features.
I mean, it depends where it turns up. Is what I'm saying. That's why it's kind of like sometimes with amateur porn, you're not really sure
who it is,
because you're like you don't know who this is, and it's like you don't even know.
In most reputable sites, it has to be a known person.
Yeah.
They do facial recognition scan.
Yeah,
they do it on us.
We've talked before, before we stream on StreamMate every single time, we have to like get in the frame and they have to do like the 3D mapping and shit like that to make sure that no unauthorized people are like in the fucking shit. You know what I mean?
First, related to this, the first customer we ever had wanted me to fucking rough her up, slapping her and stuff. I didn't slap her as hard as he wanted me to. I negotiated that before. Between 1 and 10, how hard do you want me to slap? He's like 9. I said, no, dude, 9, I'd knock her out.
Yeah, please don't knock me out.
Yeah, no. He's like,
I kind of like having all my teeth.
You know, he's like, you slap her as hard as you feel comfortable where it doesn't permanently hurt her. I was like, and I said, you want to do it? She's like, yeah, I would do it. So we did it.
Well, because I trusted you not to like.
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Cupped my hand.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Cupped my hand. So when I slapped her, fucking, it made a nice pop, but it was mostly sound effects.
Yeah, it kind of hurt, but not really.
Yeah.
Not really. Jeffy Art says, I know quite a few people who enjoy being sex workers, both male and female. And of course, not all women or men want a traditional family with kids. Yeah, and that's what I mean. And people absolutely should have that choice if they want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if somebody came to me for advice and they were 18 or 19 or something and said, hey, I'm thinking about getting into sex work, I'd be like, well, you can if you want, but
I wouldn't recommend it.
I wouldn't recommend it. Like, at that age.
No.
Like, wait until you're a little bit older.
Yeah.
Like, and get your shit together.
Yeah, he says, well, some people
and don't worry about it as much.
Yeah, and here's another thing. Just because some people like that job doesn't mean that job's for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I do shit that most people would never do. Okay? Fucking, I was doing it in the infantry. They don't have the fucking mental intestinal fortitude, and they're not shit that would fucking make your blood curdle. Is to me is like looking at a beautiful bowl of ice cream or something. I like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Which is hard for me sometimes. You know, so it's not for everybody. It's the same thing with any kind of extreme profession requires a certain kind of person for that. When I talk, when she says sex work, she's just talking about it in general. She's talking about this OnlyFans and girls running their own little naughty sites and shit. Most of that's fucking harmless, all right? But when I say sex work, I'm usually talking about hooking. That's sex work.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a more the extreme.
I would never recommend that to a young woman. No.
Well, no, not that.
No.
I mean, even escorting. I mean, just because it's dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
and there's so many more outlets nowadays if you want to get into that without getting your ass killed,
or just giving yourself a stigma like that. Now, if you were gonna be an escort or hooking, that's the same thing, just different ways of, just different descriptors. If you are gonna do that and you're a woman, you should do that later on. You know what I mean?
I mean,
do that when you're old enough to know who
that's
you
what
are.
I would advise. Yeah.
And you've already lived your life as a young person. You've had all that. You know what I mean? And you're now, you know, in your late 30s or early 40s, and you're mature, and you know that you can do it, and it's right for you, and it's not going to impact your family life or whatever in a very negative way. Then I still wouldn't recommend it. There's other things, but if you want to do it, then it's a lot safer.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Victor says, y'all should do a show about people that fake their own kidnappings or assaults. Like Jussie Smollett, Sherry Papini, I remember that case. Yeah. And that doctor that stabbed himself and tied himself up. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I wrote it down. I think for the next week's show, I think we're going to do the Killer Mom show, because that's what won in the poll this last week, but we preempted it so we could talk about this motherfucker. But I'll put that in the next poll, though, because that's actually a good idea, and I don't think we've I don't think we've done one like that. Like people that fake their own kidnappings, and that's like actually a really good idea. I'm super behind on the comments.
Yeah, John's talking about Max Hardcore. He went to prison for all that shit. Yeah, what's funny about his material is that his material he wouldn't have gotten in trouble for that nowadays. That was just he was just fucking. A jury decided that he was fucking that it was obscenity. So he did, I think, 5-6 years for that. I think maybe more. But there's all kinds of shit material just like that out now, and nobody's going to jail over it. It was just he was a victim of the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, there's so much of it out there. Yeah. It's like it's really hard to prosecute, and in a way, it's like. In a way, I don't have a problem with the proliferation, but in another way, I can see how it's harder to. It's harder to keep track of, people that were possibly trafficked or people that are underage or something like that. So I get why, even though it was a pain in the ass for us, like doing, stream made and everything like that, like you have to jump through all these hoops and everything. But I get why they do that. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want anyone on the site that doesn't want to be on there, or is being forced to be on there or isn't of age or whatever. So, they do have protocols in place, but the thing about it is there's a lot of sites out there too that don't do that, that don't check that, and just like will put up anything. So I think they're kind of cracking down, but I don't know. But like I said, it's kind of hard because you can't, where'd that video come from? You don't know who that person is. You don't know how old they are. You don't know if they're being forced to do it or whatever. So I get it. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. But, I mean, generally I don't have a problem with porn or sex work or whatever as long as everyone's consenting and of age. But, like I said, I understand that it's kind of hard to sort that out nowadays because there's so much of it out there. So, let me see. I think that I've brought up everything that I needed to bring up about this motherfucker. Because, like I said... Yeah, I'm just looking. He's what?
Pook's in the kitty tree.
Pook's in the kitty tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was looking to see if there was anything else that I needed to mention about this Rex Heuermann dude.
I'm interested to find out more about him. More's going to come out.
Well, yeah, because like I said, the dude literally just got arrested Friday.
Yeah.
And like I said, they didn't want him to know that they were working, so they were keeping him under surveillance for a while, and they were being super sneaky about it, and they didn't want to pick him up at his house because he has a fuck ton of guns, and so they didn't know if like the situation was going to go sideways, so they wanted to get him somewhere where he wasn't expecting it, so they actually arrested him, and there's footage of it, you can see it on YouTube, of them arresting him. They just got him when he was walking out his office. I think he was just going home for the day or going to the train or whatever. Coming out his office on 5th Avenue and just walking down the street. And all of a sudden, like, all these dudes, like, in black just kind of, like, surround him. And he's like, what? Like, yeah. he was totally shocked.
Yeah, going sideways. They weren't afraid that he was going to shoot the cops. He wouldn't do that. What he would do is he would kill himself.
Yeah,
he's one of those.
Yeah, they didn't want that.
He's a control freak.
Right, they didn't want that kind of situation.
He's a control freak. He would say, "They caught me. Okay, I'm out of here. I ain't going to jail." Pow! That's what he would have done.
I wonder.
And then he would escape justice. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Just like that dude that kept those girls in that house. Who?
Ariel Castro.
Ariel Castro. He killed himself once they captured him. Hung himself. This dude may not make it to trial. He might hang himself. Who knows?
He is on suicide watch.
Yeah. Okay.
I did note that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they said he was crying and shit.
Usually these guys that are big into control, they don't want to be controlled by a system. So they want out.
Yeah.
And they want to take the control away from the system. The only way you do that in his situation is to...
Well, that's why I'm glad that they fucking snuck up on the motherfucker and got him in there.
It's him.
Because... I want to know how many other people he fucking killed.
A whole bunch.
I mean, they might be able to clear a bunch of unsolved murders now because of this.
He's going to be like Gary Ridgway and Charles Rader, or Dennis Rader. It's going to be like that.
I mean, yeah.
Bunch.
Like
20,
I said,
30, somewhere around there.
It's going to be, yeah. I mean, I've seen estimates. Like I said, they're just charging him with 3 at the moment because that's what they have the most evidence for. I've seen estimates as high as 17, but they think that it might go higher than that.
Yeah.
So they must know some other shit.
So they're saying the same thing that I am, 20, 30, around there.
They must know some other shit.
Yeah, he's old enough to where and he's rich enough and has the resources to where he could rack up at least
because he has property elsewhere.
Yeah. There's gonna be stuff out there.
And I would also put money on the fact that he did not stop killing people in 2010.
No.
I think that that's 13 years. He still had a burner phone in his pocket when they arrested him in 2023.
No, he's just got a new place where he's putting them.
That's what I'm saying. I think that he's just dumping them somewhere else. So I think that they're out there. There's another burial ground someplace where he's been putting them.
And he's only killing a small fraction of these girls. He's mostly just spending a lot of money on hookers. Some of them he kills.
Yeah.
That's where the money went.
It might have been. I kind of feel like.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he had like a bunch of other bills. Like I said,
he's probably getting a couple of them a week, depending on what the prices are like. He's probably spending $1,000.
I wonder how often his wife is away from home.
He's probably spending $1,500 a month.
Unless he's like pretending to go to work and then just like going and meeting hookers.
Oh yeah.
I'm probably.
I work late. I got some shit I got to do.
Yeah, I'm sure there's always like ways to work around it. Like I said, so that's why I always like people are always like, how'd the wife not know? I'm like, easy.
Yeah, if he's got a business, he's got a business in multiple homes and vehicles and shit like that.
And I mean, he lives out in Massapequa Park, which is like out on Long Island, and he works in Manhattan. So he takes like that. I don't remember how long that takes, like on the train, but it's like a little bit of a commute. And like you said, he could just say, "Oh, I got this big client. I gotta stay late or whatever." It's like dudes have been doing it forever.
I gotta go hang out with Rick. I'll be back in a bit.
Right. Yeah,
later tonight.
James said, I heard he only went out and hunted when his wife went out of the country for business. Yeah, that's what they know of for now, with the ones. But I would be very surprised if
I would doubt it. Because the other ones weren't like that. You know what I mean? Gary Ridgway wasn't like that. He was buried. Dennis Rader wasn't like that. He was doing it when the wife was at home.
Yeah.
You just find ways around it.
Yeah.
So he was doing both.
That's what I mean. You could just say... well, because
when she was gone, he was able to fucking play. So there's going to be bodies.
Right.
But then there's going to be occasional ones, too, when she's there. And over time, those are going to add up. I bet you most of them was when she was there. Just that it was over a longer period of time. You wouldn't notice it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like sometimes he'd be like, oh, I'm going to go, play poker with the guys or something like that.
And you're talking about maybe like one of them every 2 or 3 months, maybe. That adds up over the years.
Yeah, because he's probably been doing this for a really long time.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, his first court date's August 1st, I think. So, we'll see what he has to say for himself on that day. I'm not sure entirely what they're going to do. John Gora said, imagine if your inner life revolved around hookers. Meeting them and killing them at times seems exhausting. It does, I agree.
Yeah.
It really does seem like he was just obsessed with it.
Well, the drive, the male sex drive, really, if you really look at what's behind it, is that it's emotion. It tends to be loneliness. So that's one. It's loneliness and physical attraction. So chances are he has a very dry relationship with his wife. Okay, he's not really fulfilled by her emotionally. There's not enough excitement. It's not enough new things for him. So that's his outlet. That's his dating. He sees it as dating. But some of them he's got to kill. That's just part of his fucking mechanisms happening there. He's got to punish some of them. So you can see, just think of, all your whole deal is to run around hookers. You're seeing them as hookers. He doesn't really see them that way per se. He sees them as kind of like dates. And there's good girls and bad girls. He tolerates the bad girls. He doesn't like the good girls doing that. So he kills them. That's what I think. Based on the photographs that I've seen of the victim. Because they look like good girls.
And like I said, he does seem to have like a weird controlling...
Yeah, and it's a Madonna horror complex.
Controlling and narcissistic, he comes across like that too.
If he sees one, he goes, you're not a whore, you're a Madonna. You can't do this, I got to kill you. You got to be punished.
James says, punish them for making themselves vulnerable to men like him. Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe so. But like you said, I think what you said earlier was probably kind of pretty close to the mark where you were saying that it's almost like a weird kind of jealousy.
Oh yeah, well that's part of it. Right,
Yeah.
It's a bunch of stuff. It's like jealousy.
And that's why he chose those particular
He's big
ones,
and
that type.
Yeah, he's big and he's not good looking. He's not pretty. These girls are little and pretty, and normal looking, and it fucking enraged him.
Yeah, I guess.
Kind of like jealousy.
I was wondering too because, you know, before he got caught, because we did the first show about the Long Island serial killer in 2018, and he had done so many searches for podcasts and stuff like that about it that I wonder if he listened to ours.
I don't know.
I was thinking that when I was like looking through all the Google searches, I'm like, I bet that.
We didn't do a podcast dedicated to him though.
Yeah,
we did
back in 2018.
Yeah, he's probably seen it.
That's what I was thinking because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that bitch, because he did so many searches and was like obsessed with like reading
Yeah.
shit all the time.
I wanted to know what was known
So he's
about
probably like listening to us, but I don't know if he's going to be able to listen to it now because they're not. He's he's in custody now and no bail.
I think some jails allow him to have internet.
See, yeah, I don't
phones.
really know.
Yeah.
Although I think in this situation, given the context
They
of
probably
what,
won't let him
I
have
don't
one.
think they would
Yeah.
let him have a phone or
Yeah.
internet or anything because they're like, no, because you'll just try to find more fucking victims. Get the fuck off there, you know. So I
Yeah.
kind of feel like they'll probably keep him away from that, and rightfully so. I think they should. James says highly unlikely, but possible he listened to you guys. I mean, maybe. Like I said, he did do a lot of searches, so that would be pretty weird. We have thought about that before. Like when we've done shows about serial killers that haven't been caught yet, and
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, I wonder if he listened to this motherfucking thing. Because some
Yeah.
of them were like kind of obsessed with.
We did a show on the fucking original Night Stalker.
Yeah.
It got a huge amount of hits. It was probably what?
Before he got caught.
Before he got caught.
Yeah.
We did it before he got caught, and then he got caught a couple weeks later, and then that show got.
Well, it was
shit
a while later.
Well,
yeah.
how long was it? A couple
I don't
months?
remember, but it was a while.
Then
later.
that show got a shit ton of hits, and I called it on every fucking count who that dude was, and what he was like.
Like I said, you should be a profile.
D'Angelo, yeah, I profiled his ass. I knew he was a cop or military. He was both.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's both. And fucking, yeah, I had his number.
Well, we've said this before. Serial killers tend to fall into like a handful of types.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't. You know, everybody's different, but they all have like certain similar things. You know what I mean?
D'Angelo was an elite commando. He'd come in through your windows while you were at work and set the whole fucking house up so he could get in later, unload all your guns. He'd find out where all your fucking defensive weapons were, and then let you come home and then fucking go in there when you were in there with your husband. He's gonna humiliate the husband, rape the wife, do all kinds of fucking weird shit. And eventually, he was killed. Yeah, and then he'd sit in the house and eat.
Remember, he'd always like
Eat while they were alive, and then go back in there.
he'd stack plates on like their backs and so it's
Stack
like,
plates on
if
the
I
back
hear
or the head of the
if
man.
I hear him rattling, then
If I hear it red, I'm gonna kill
come-
your wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck
And he'd
that.
have him out there squatted down with the fucking plates on his head. He'd had it shit all fucking thought out.
James says D'Angelo was a tiny dick. LOL.
Little
yeah.
dick motherfucker.
Yeah, he was like a micro dick motherfucker.
Yeah. Overcompensating.
Big time.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Don't overcompensate.
I mean, I always
Yeah.
make jokes about that shit.
Yeah.
Like every time I see like a huge pickup truck or something
Yeah,
like
she
that,
does
I'm
all
just
the time.
kind of like,
Yeah.
we all know what that means, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
If
But
you're-
yeah,
if you-
it's true though. It's true.
Florida-
In his case, it was.
Florida is the home of this fucking monster trucks. They're like something out of damn Mad Max. I got nothing against that shit. I'd love to have a big ass truck. These things are getting so big, even dudes like me is like, dude, that fucking truck is too fucking big.
You're just
You
announcing.
got a little dick, don't
You're
you?
just announcing to the world. I'm not sure if they know that that's what everyone is thinking, but that's the first thing everybody thinks.
I'm driving through the parking lot. Jen's with me. This is just fucking a couple days ago. We were fucking going to Books A Million. And this giant daytime, huge giant monster truck comes. It's bigger than fucking Immortan Joe's fucking car. Like, what the fuck? And Jen looks right at him. And he's a young guy, good looking guy in his 20s. And Jen goes, he's got a little dick. I just busted up laughing. He's the old cowboy, little dick cowboy. And I think
Because
Jen,
why would you need that?
I think Jen called it. I was like, that motherfucker was overcompensating.
why would
So
you need
just
that?
a word to the wise, you gentlemen. You know what I mean? That truck better not be too big.
Because that's
the
exactly
women are gonna
every
go, "You don't have a
every
fucking
single
dick."
woman is thinking that when she sees you.
Actually,
in that
you know what
thing.
you said, Jen?
What did I
That's
say?
not what you said. You didn't say, I bet he's got a little dick. You said, That's that little dick energy.
Oh yeah,
that's what she said.
I said little dick energy.
Little dick energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, James says, big neon signs with arrows on your truck pointing to the cab. Tiny dick. I mean, you might as well. You might as well. Because that's what everybody's thinking.
That's the fucking stereotype.
That's what all the women are thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know about dudes, but that's what all the women are thinking. They're like,
He's got a little dick.
Yeah, he's like, he's overcompensating for something. Yeah. Jeff Yard says, based on what you guys were saying, it feels like there might be parallels between this guy, Heuermann, and Herb Baumeister. Jealousy and resentment as a motive. Yeah, maybe so. Baumeister killed himself too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Went off in the woods and killed himself when they thought he was closing in on him. Yeah, James said it was 4 months later. Like, we did the show about Original Night Stalker, and then 4 months later.
He must have went back there and checked.
And then Victor said, I remember messaging Jenny on Facebook when they caught D'Angelo. Yeah, I remember you doing that.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I was in Books a Million.
You guys been with the shows for a long time. How long ago was that? 8 years ago? 6 years
2018 we did that show. Yeah. I think it was May of 2018. I think. But, yeah, when we were in Books a Million the other day, they had that book about Golden State Killer, I'll Be Home in the Dark. They had it on sale, and I was like, I was going to get it, but I was like, gee, I have like a huge stack of books already that I got to read. I'll get it next time because I gotta work through all those ones that I bought. Zach says, also, I bet when they sentence this dude, he's going to immediately start crying like a baby. I mean, according to his defense attorney, he already cried. Like, and he's like, I didn't do this. And it's like his attorney said he was very distraught. And I was like, aw. Poor baby.
It's an act. He did that shit.
Yeah, I definitely think
he's gonna end up. He's gonna once there's no way out of this shit. He's gonna fucking buck up like Dennis did. And, well, I had these other projects, and he's gonna be like that. He's just
gonna stand there and
he's gonna fucking spill his guts,
dispassionately tell everybody about everything that happened.
Told her, I said I had these sexual problems, and I'm gonna have to kill you now. And of course, she was very upset, so I gave her some water. Then I strangled her.
Yeah.
That motherfucker.
I mean, like you said, it's like you talk like that. It's like it sounds like a joke, but it's not. Yeah. That's what he talked like.
Yeah.
He was just very matter of fact.
Yeah, I just fucking.
It's so creepy.
I'm not from that background, man.
Yeah.
I got no problem, man. I'm not a fucking peacenik. I got no problem being in gunfights, fucking shooting and fucking killing and everything. But it's these guys are. Everybody's willing in this shit. You know what I'm talking about? This is some kind of fucking. Yeah. But then just doing this shit for sex, no, man. I just can't see it, man. No. You gotta fucking bust a nut, and then you gotta kill somebody afterwards because you had to have sex. You had to have no, man. That shit doesn't fucking compute with me. No.
Well, it doesn't compute with most.
No, I'd have to kill you. I'd have to kill you if I saw you.
If you were doing some shit like that. Yeah, like I said.
I'd kill you and
take you out of the gene pool.
Yeah, and no one would ever know exactly what happened. You'd never be found. I can't let that. And I can't hand you over to the authorities because they just can't be trusted. So I'd have to be the angel of fucking the angel of retribution on your ass. And it ain't going to be quick. It's going to be slow.
I mean, then we'll have to feed him to an alligator.
It's going to be slow. Something. Yeah, I can't let something like that. I couldn't let anything like that just remain. It's just not in me.
They can't walk around loose.
No, I just can't let you walk around like that.
No.
Or like Dexter. You know what I'm talking about? I'll go Dexter on your ass. I just can't let you fucking walk around like that.
I was kind of wanting to rewatch Dexter.
Yeah, that's a good series, yeah.
I never did watch the newest series this season. Because they made a new season, but I never did watch it. Maybe I should watch the whole thing, although I have so much other stuff I gotta watch too. James says the men are too high on the diesel fuel to notice the tiny dick energy it gives them.
I guess that's what it is.
They're like, everybody thinks that I'm the man. Yeah. They're driving around thinking. And meanwhile, everyone's like, murmur. Going like that.
I got video proof if y'all want to see. I don't have a big truck. I got a little bitty motorcycle with a big engine in it. I run around real fast. Big Buell 1200. All right, and big dick energy. You'll see. Got that shit documented.
Yeah, he had it documented.
Got it documented. Got my bee's nest as my murder hornets as my witness. He's seen. I sent him free samples.
Zach says the D'Angelo update episode was my first one with you guys.
Really?
Back
Yeah.
in 2018.
We got a lot of subscribers on the back of that channel, back of that show.
Yeah.
Because of all the correct predictions, and it was a good show, and it was just that time. It was pre-pandemic. Everybody was in a good mood. Fucking economy was fucking bagging. A lot of people came on the show around that time, and the show was kind of in transition. We just started to do video stream, which makes the show so much easier to do, so much more fluid.
Yeah, I do like it a lot better.
Yeah, it used to be a lot of YouTube shows were just basically slideshows.
Yeah, that's what ours was.
Which they were fun, but there's just a lot of work, and it's just not as fluid and not enough no interaction. Now we have interaction with the crowd live. It's a lot better to know who your customers are.
I mean, we do go off on a lot of tangents, but whatever.
Yeah,
it's okay. Speaking of which, it's almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh shit! It's getting late.
I have to go to bed soon.
Yeah.
Because I got to get up early in the morning and go to my damn job.
Yeah.
So yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this update on the Long Island serial killer case. I'm sure there will be lots more shit about this dude coming out in the future. And like I said, sadly, I'm sure they'll find a lot more bodies.
Damn, we got 42 on there right now.
Really? Wow.
I didn't realize we had them. If
That
y'all
must be
could go ahead and hit that like button for us, that'd be awesome. And we, of course, are open for super chats, and we can give super thanks. You can give us a super thanks if you're listening to this recorded.
Yeah, you can do that too.
You're right.
Jamie says, love you guys. Love you too. Hope to catch you next stream. Next stream will be Friday night, and that is our sidetrack show, which is always the fun sidetrack show where we just talk about whatever. We don't have a topic.
Whatever we're doing,
we just drink and talk about all kind of
current
crazy
events.
About all kind of crazy shit.
Anything you guys want to talk about, you guys can bring stuff into the comment sections, and we'll discuss it.
Yeah. Or we'll try to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks everybody for dropping by and hanging out with us this evening. Have a good day tomorrow. And we'll see you guys again. Thank you very much, Victor.
Thank you very much.
Good
Victor.
show. Thank you
Appreciate
very
it,
much.
Vic.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we got to hold on for a little second. Maybe we got to hold on for a second in case we got anybody else. We're gonna let the show go a little bit longer because there might be some people giving super chats. We're gonna see.
Don't get too.
Go ahead and shut it down then.
All right. So yeah. So have a good day tomorrow, you guys, and we'll see you again Friday night for the sidetrack show. Good night.